Well, hello. Wednesday again, by Generates again. Generation Z Hoovian, Generation X Hoovian, and a Zennial this week, just to kind of make it a bit more spiky. Now, of course, there's only one game in town here, isn't there? Rumours of Disney walking the plank, more details about the tanking audience figures for Christmas Day against all rivals, all of them. News that Bad Wolf are touting for business, and RTD announces a very diverse, some would say niche selection of writers for the make or break season 2. More stunt casting and messaging on the way, by any chance? Does anyone get the sense that RTD, like Davros in Genesis of the Daleks, has pressed the self-destruct button on his new Who creation? Or to mix my metaphors up, let's be frank, has RTD run the Doctor Who ship into an iceberg, hauled the show below the waterline, and we are now seeing Bad Wolf, Disney, audiences scurrying like rats from a sinking ship? It's very hard to build confidence at the moment, optimism, or any cheer. But denial and heads in sand is not mature, is not pragmatic. We need to discuss our concerns and explore what we truly think is going on, which is why a troika today of Generation X, Generation Z, and a Zennial might be interesting, as well as all of you in the thread there. Send us your questions, send us your worries, and we'll gladly share a lot of them. It's going to be one of those, I think, today. Our Bigenerate chat is spiked even more, okay, with that third element. So please join us, give us a like, liven up the thread with comments and questions, and let's start the group hug now. So starting off, let's get Cinnamon on, our Generation Zedder. Hello, Generation Z. How are you?
Preparing myself for a big one today, but yeah, I'm okay.
He's okay so far. It won't last. No, and just to for this week to complete the troika, we have Rhoda. Hiya, Rhoda.
Hey, how we doing? Oh, there we go.
There you go.
There we are.
So, Generation X Hoovian, Generation Z Hoovian, Zennial Hoovian. There, we're covering quite a few generations, so we should be covering some bases here.
He's the middleman. He keeps me and you
I'm whatever you call
grounded
someone
and
who's more than 85.
That's it. So
We just don't know.
So as you see in my thumbnail here, I mean, I didn't have to make anything up. There's talk that Disney's writing off Doctor Who. The audience appreciation figures that we mentioned last week, we're finding out more, and it's just tanked. And then we've obviously got hypocritical RTD, who used to say he was anti-woke, and then suddenly he's promoting woke writers. I mean, it's just classic. So let's get going, lads, because there's so much to talk about. I'm trying to cheer you up. So everybody out there, we really are going to talk about these issues, but I'm trying as a Doctor Who fan to go, well, if you were watching Call the Midwife, did you see that she was full of glee because she was watching the Third Doctor? No, is that not working for you?
yeah, they do this a
Never
lot.
watched Call the Midwife.
I don't watch it. Did you see it, Cinnamon?
No, it's not my sort of show at all. It's something my mum watches, but they do this a lot, don't they? The BBC they like to stick Doctor Who references in EastEnders, and
Yeah.
probably other shows like it. I mean, you wouldn't you? I suppose. I don't know. I didn't know about this, but it's interesting. It makes sense. I think this particular bit. I'd like to say I don't watch it, but when I do go on iPlayer to watch other things, I do see like this pop up as a thing to watch.
But
And
it
I think
did.
Yeah, that always pops up.
it's 70s, I think. So it makes sense that it would be a
Well, it was
early era.
60s first. Now they've obviously moved into the 70s. But can you imagine if they continued to make Call the Midwife up to 2025? Do you think the nuns who were there then would ever pull a face like that when they watched the Shooty Gatwa season 1 Space Babies? I don't know. They'll say turn it off.
Another thing as well, a very good attention to detail actually, because they wouldn't have. Most people might not have had color TVs, so not everyone would have watched it in color, despite the fact it was a colorized story. So
Yeah, and it looks
I'll
good.
just
That's a
praise
black and
it.
white there. You mentioned colorization, and I'm trying to remember everybody. We are discussing the issues, but to cheer us up, we need some positivity. Again, Tinted Who was as releasing loads of lovely colorized pics, and look at that Dominators one. Yes, I mean, I don't actually really like the Dominators that much, but a bit of color, yeah, I'm all for this. I mean, are you up for colorizations if they weren't tinkering, Rhoda?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as, say, with Disney Snow White and pretty much all the remakes they're doing. It's like all you need to do is stay faithful to the source material. If you stay faithful to the source material, it's going to be good. Like, for example, Wednesday with Jenna Ortega, she absolutely insisted on keeping the character as she was and actually playing it properly rather than apparently she even had rows with the director. So just keep it authentic, keep it as it was supposed to be, respect the original writers and performers and the body of work that they put out. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not yours to bastardize.
Now,
I don't
the
blame her
snack.
actually. To be honest, if you want to play a character like Wednesday or a different character, you want to play that character as you know it and as everyone knows it. What's the point in playing a character like Wednesday from the Adams family if they're nothing like the Adams family and nothing like Wednesday?
Yeah.
It'd be like, what's the point?
Well, let me
I
just
completely agree.
let
Completely.
me just show you. So we've got colorization. I'm trying, as you know, in my little snippets here, trying to cheer people up first. So some colorized pics of 60s Doctor Who. Trouble is, when you see anything now of any great pictures, there's pictures I see and there's pictures I can't unsee. And of course, every time on my Twitter feed and Instagram and that, I just keep seeing pictures of Shooty in so many different positions. Our doctor, who's certainly not protecting the brand, you know, the one on the left, you think, aye, what you up to? I know it's supposed to be a shot for the importance of being earnest, but the mind boggles. And on the right, I'm sure that's Sharon D. Clark, who's also in the importance of being earnest. So I don't know if that's just a cast shot when they're having a laugh. He looks as though he is dressed as a space baby there. I'm not quite sure. I mean,
Yeah, it looked like I thought it was a towel at first, but now it looks a bit more like an adult nappy.
Yeah, he might be a space baby.
It looks like some kind of. It looks like a corset with some kind of thing attached to the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, the mind boggles, but this is what I mean. I mean, you know, you think of colorized Doctor Who, and then you're suddenly going, I know, but where have we ended up? Where have we ended up? And of course, when I see, as Lee Smith has just said about, yeah, sniffing statues' bums on the left there, but it then makes me think of Joy to the World. I can't help it. And as I pointed out to lots of people, I'd seen the shot. There's the Sandringham Hotel, and there's the LGBT nightclub to the left. That's why he stayed for the year. You know, he
Yeah.
wasn't really helping Anita with the plumbing. He was going to the nightclub every blooming night, maybe doing stuff like that. I don't know. Do you know, knowing Tom Baker smoked, but he never smoked in front of kids, and knowing that every other Doctor actor protected the brand, I really do wish this person would.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you hadn't invited me on to review the Christmas special, then I was going to make a tweet. I would have had to have done some AI to it or something because it wasn't snowing. But I was gonna like meme on the whole touch grass thing that he said and say,
Yeah.
oh, instead of watching Doctor Who, I'm touching snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me watch. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to cheer you up, but you see, then you start to think of all this. I mean, Joy to the World's Blu-ray's coming out soon. Whee! Do you know, for the first time, I haven't rushed to order. I am a completist of my collection, but I've lost the faith. Have you ordered it, Cinnamon?
I would have, but I made the mistake last time because when they released the Church and Ruby Road fairly soon afterwards, and obviously you had to wait a little bit longer for the actual full season to come out. I ended up having 2 copies of it anyway because they just put it on the season 1 box set, so I'd imagine they're going to put this on the season 2 box set. So instead of me spending more money on it than I need to, probably just wait for the season 2 box set, and because I imagine it'll be put on there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I do think when we all know that everybody's ordering like hell season 7 Blu-ray collection, that's going to outsell this by an absolute hell of a margin. So then I show you that the new Doctor Who magazine's out there. I'm still trying desperately to be cheerful and good and everything. And you know what? Because of all the stuff that we're about to talk about, just to remind everybody, we are going there any second now. We're going to go into all these areas in an awful lot of depth. This sort of stuff, it just seems to be background noise now. I'm going, yeah, I've got the magazine, whatever. Not appealing at all. It doesn't seem to be the main game in town. And then I'll say to you, lads, just as we're about to embark on this big discussion, you know, you think of where we're at with the 15th Doctor, and then you start to think of where we were in the Imagine documentary when the Bad Wolf team, who apparently have an empty studio at the moment, said the 80s Doctor Who was pastiche, silly property, and it was a kind of low-level entertainment. You know, they have a very dismissive view of 80s Who. And you think of, you know, Shooty and the way he's acting. You think of some of the rubbish episodes we've had. And you just think, really, are we any different from your version of 80s Doctor Who?
See, quotes like that really bother me because it's just, all right, yeah, okay, the sets, the wobbly sets, the cliches about that, the stereotypes about classic Who, what have you, whatever. But it's like pastiche. Oh, it's silly. Oh, it's a bit clunky. Oh, it's a bit embarrassing. Let's have it right. A lot of people would regard that, the 80s, as far superior product to what we're getting now. So while you sit there on your very high chair and talk down about other eras, a lot of people and a lot of people's mind would say that those eras, Series 24, I mean, Series 24 was a little bit rocky. I still liked it for the most part, but Series 25 and 26, if I'm being honest, kind of blow this era out of the water. So let's have it right.
Well, I'd love to hear from Sean Kerr here. The Gay Bar was main stage, owned by one of my best friends. Sadly, it's closed now. Can I just say that as a gay man, I am absolutely appalled at the state of Doctor Who. My first Doctor was Pertwee. So, Sean, you must be a similar age to me. I'm gay. Pertwee was my first Doctor, and I don't know anything about that Gay Bar. But yeah, it's interesting that it was in the shot, isn't it? I mean, I can't help it, can you? It's interesting, nice little insight then. Thanks for that, Sean.
It's deliberate. Huh? Everything you see on screen.
Everything's deliberate. Every little shot. Yeah. Every little shot is there to trigger and provoke and get you going. Now, let's get on with this now. I'll show you these 2 slides, fellas, and see what you and all the thread think, because this is from 2 years ago only, and it shows you how much he's changed his mind. So Russell Davies hits out at rubbish modern woke scriptwriters who are obsessed with diversity rather than loving television. Oh, yes, I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. So let me just show you again, everyone, before I change the slide. RTD hits out at rubbish woke scriptwriters who are obsessed with diversity rather than loving TV. Right. And then he said, many scriptwriters today did not love TV and were more interested in representation. I do a lot of mentoring, darling, and there are voices wanting to be heard of any gender or ethnicity who consider themselves invisible. They hate the media that ignores them, and they're trapped into wanting a job in that medium purely to increase representation. And he was telling the Sunday Times, I read their scripts and they're rubbish. They don't actually love television, so they don't know how to write for it. Right. Oh, and relax. RTD's on our side. Oh, thank God for that. It's only 2 years ago.
That is what we call projection.
Yes. Go on, say more, Rhoda.
I don't know what more there is to say. He's describing himself and saying how, yeah, exactly, as Paul Richards is saying, how hypocritical.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly what he's doing. I mean, maybe Nobody cares if the actor who plays the Doctor is gay. Nobody cares at all.
I mean,
Nobody cares what color or race or sex or whatever any character is. They just want to watch a good character. They want to. And the thing that they want the least is to have the writer trying to inject their own politics into it instead of entertain them. It was called the entertainment industry for a reason. It's not called the indoctrination industry. It's not called the you must be like me, otherwise there's something wrong with you and you're a horrible, evil person industry. It's called the entertainment industry.
but can I just say, and you know, my partner laughs because he says every stream you say, by the way, I was an English teacher, but it's relevant sometimes. Listen, the truth is,
Just like your dad was a
yeah,
filmmaker.
exactly. Yeah, my dad was a toolmaker, yeah, and a chemist, and all that. No, the truth is, science fiction is escapism, and
That's the word
representing.
I missed. I meant to say escapism.
Yeah, they're missing the absolute nub of what science fiction is. Take the kids, take the readers, take the viewers away from present day ills and moans and groans, and take us to the planet Zog, where they have an issue that we might relate to, but we can just enjoy it for 4 episodes. And I will say episodes because I still think he's missing the point. But isn't this amazing? And as Peter Harrington said, is this only 2 years ago? Yep. 29th of January, 2023, 2 years to the day. 2 years to the day, he thought all those people writing about woke issues ended up writing rubbish scripts. Now, maybe there's a little nugget of lack of. People are saying he's hypocritical, but there's another version of looking at it, Cinnamon. He's actually saying that there's not enough good woke writers like him. That he can do it, but they've all done it badly.
Well, either all of this was a lie and he never meant it anyway.
Well, when you look
or he's going to be the biggest hypocrite in history. Does he not own a mirror in his house? Does he not know the term of self-awareness? He's literally in every word for word, described himself perfectly. I mean, because this very, very same article is the reason we have Rogue, largely because he was critiquing Loki, and then set the wheels in motion. Bryony, I can't remember the writer's name, but it let them essentially write the episode in because of all this. So it sparked that. It's what, like say, what can you say? I'm astounded. This is from 2 years ago, and I've since the recent news of writers has been announced. I have seen this, thankfully, because it seems like there's only me who seems to remember that this quote and all of this. So I'm glad to see that this has been making the rounds online. People sharing it around, and rightly so, because again, it's people are allowed to change their opinion, but when you're allowed to change. I've changed my opinion on things. You're allowed to change your opinion. But then there's changing your opinion and then again becoming a hypocrite. Because how you sit there and so aggressively and so openly criticize and say how rubbish they are, and then do the exact same thing that you just said that was awful and so rubbish, and they don't love TV.
Yeah, but I will say as an English teacher, there's a different version of this you could read, which is he is saying, with all his hubris and all his complacency and self-belief, that there's an awful lot of rubbish TV writers who can't do representation very well. However, RTD comes into the equation. You see, can you see how all of this is true in his head, but he's not talking about himself?
I am the one who can do representation.
Exactly, because in Space Babies, I didn't think babies had been represented enough. Refugee babies especially, there's a niche market for them. Obviously, we needed more drag queens playing gods, as if RuPaul's not enough. We obviously needed to see a lot more space age villains. He did Captain Jack so many years ago. I mean, hello, old news. But I do think what he's saying there, he's not including himself.
No, because he thinks he can do it. He
Yeah.
thinks it doesn't apply to him. He thinks, oh well, they can't do it, but I can. I mean, again, we've well, I mean, we're the ones that decide that really. We're the ones that consume the product and give our thoughts on it. You're not subtle. He's not on the ball as much as he thinks he is. He's just silly. He
Now,
thinks he's on it and he's not.
what I want to show, because we're going to come to the selection of the new writers, I want us to all, in the thread as well, I appreciate you've got so many great comments. I'll keep bringing them in. But let's just look at this sentence before we look at the new writers. He says, these people, they hate the media that ignores them, and they're trapped into wanting a job in that medium purely to increase representation. I read their scripts and they're rubbish. They don't actually love television, so they don't know how to write for it. And then we see, I'll come back to that. There's a few little slides I wanted to show first, but we see, I've got a lot of prepping. As you know, we showed this last week, he's mentoring new writers, but then of course, we got the announcement of the new writers. And then of course, we saw them. But we can't judge on color skin. That's not the way to do it. That's saying DEI casting out loud. But what you're saying is you might be slightly more kind of triggered by race. No, let's say we've researched them as we have, and then we can call out their CVs. And there's an awful lot to say about some of them, as you can all guess. But basically, are we really going there? Are we really saying that these people are not? I mean, I've researched all three of them. I know a bit more about Peter McTeague, but the other three have been increasing representation and focusing on representation. I haven't seen a CV of Sci-Fi. We'll go into it in a minute, but does anybody from what they've looked up so far know much?
Well, like I said, just before we went live, I haven't done much research purely because, and we'll talk about it later, but because Junior Dawson has kind of sucked the energy out of the room, so I've kind of focused more on that than on the rest. Obviously, Pete McTeague has got previous. Again, I don't particularly enjoy his previous episodes, but okay, he's got the best out of the bunch, I suppose. The other two on the right, again, I don't know them. I think one maybe is a poet. Again, I'm not going to jump down the rabbit hole and say, oh, absolutely 100% certainty DEI shouldn't be there, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, to play devil's advocate, in Rtd's own words, he wants more representation. That's the route he wants to go down. So it's not completely far-fetched to believe that they are trying to be more inclusive with their writers than perhaps previously. Because you could say, well, why doesn't he bring back Mark Gatiss? Why is Toby Whithouse not getting a shout? Why is that other picture 2 out of however many men were there were men and the rest were women? It's just, you can't help but look at it and you do think, is there a bit of a pattern? It's okay to think that. They'll tell you it's not, but it's okay to think that. It's not okay to just sort of jump in and say, right, without doing any research, right, you there, you don't deserve to be there.
But knowing what he said only 2 years today about lots of representation writers don't know the medium and the right rubbish scripts. And then I bring this evidence in, everybody. Joining the dots, I think, is the name of the game. And of course, here in the Imagine documentary, Caitlin Moran, journalist who knows RTD very well, says, imagine now being able to be this political like he was in It's a Sin. And RTD knows what power TV has when it's done properly, being this influential again back at Doctor Who. And then she explains herself a bit more. It's the most incredible power because you've got all of the time and space, but it's a kid's show, and that's the power of it. That generation are going to grow up with as part of their belief system. It's the best toy you can have. And who was the first villain he came up with? The toy maker. Do you know what? You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. The idea that nobody can do representation, but I can. And I've now selected a crew who can because I'm mentoring them. And therefore, with this children's program of Sci-Fi, we're going to inject stuff and it's our toy and we can do our messaging. I mean, I'm trying my best, Rhoda. Is there another way I can read into this other than the one I've just said?
No, I mean it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's it's indoctrination, pure and simple. And the guy's got he seems to think he's the only one who can do it, which would suggest that in his own mind he exists outside of reality, like some kind of god complex, which would also tie into the fact that it was the toy maker that he chose to bring back. I really think there's something vicious about what he's doing. Like maybe he's trying to, I don't know, get back at school bullies or something. I mean, what do you're a teacher. What do you think about that?
The thing is, I'll always play the ball and not the man, because I don't know RTD at all. All I can do is do guesswork. But my guesswork is we can all get to a certain age when you have thought you were cool and trendy. So as a teacher, when I was in my 20s and 30s, you were closer to the age of the kids. They thought you were cool and trendy with what you wore, how you acted, how you taught, and some of your cultural references. You get to my age now and they think you're a dinosaur. You know, you're out. You can pretend you're cool. You know when somebody old in a classroom or anything is trying to be cool. Doesn't work. And I think RTD was cool in the 90s. He thinks he's still cool. He's not. And the only way he can now make... the only way he can make himself cool now is to surround himself with new blood wrapped in the diversity blanket and make him still the main deal because he's the mentor. But no, he doesn't know anything about trans. He's a gay man in his 60s. I can't claim to know about trans just because even if I talk to people or I've had kids at school who were, I can't. You know, it's not in my mindset. I can't pretend I know. So maybe I will just put lots of those characters in or writers in to cover for my flaws. But then it's not a sci-fi program. Then you're trying to do a soap opera, which does representation a lot better. And of course, Caitlin Moran talked about they want it like a toy. It's a political thing. And there's his quote. 20 years ago, all the geeks and the nerds were the freaks and were just embarrassing. We were the ones ignored at school, and now we rule the world. The movies, the TV, the culture. Even Kamala Harris has appeared on Drag Race. Kamala who? I mean, you know...
No, not... Sorry.
Yeah, well, she wanted to bring joy to the world. Remember, she said that in a presidential election, and he brought joy to the world.
Where Russell got the title from? Oh, no, it was Moffat, wasn't it?
Well, I have to say, sometimes those on the left seem to like this word joy, and then they don't do much joy at all. I mean, Keir Starmer's hardly been joyful at the moment. It's all bad news. And so, yes, and he says this is how he wants to do things. One of the things I thought coming into it was not to reinvent the wheel. Well, no, Doctor Who's a popular franchise. I don't think it needs reinventing. I think it's a wonderful classic show that in many ways has never changed. But what you want to do is bring 2024 to it. And then he starts talking about gay life in Manchester, politics in London, or a nightlife in New York. I always want to make it look like today. And then I do think it's very important to bring that to it. I don't have to put much thought into it, actually. And I feel very trusted by the BBC and Disney Plus to let my voice be heard. They don't stop me. Nothing's ever censored or challenged. It's a very fruitful relationship.
It's a more abusive relationship. Oh, I get everything I want without being challenged, and I get it, and I want it now. And you can't do a thing about it. I mean, it's fruitful for you.
He doesn't mention... Sorry, I'll come to you. He doesn't mention Wigan. He doesn't mention Clitheroe. He doesn't mention Middlesbrough. He doesn't mention towns. He doesn't mention villages. He mentions metropolitan elites, metropolitan fads. He doesn't talk about the small town cultures around the country, the mainstay of every country. Because he doesn't, I mean... I want to write about gay life in Manchester. Right. Well, good for you, but that's not the gay life I'm aware of. I've heard of it. I still don't want people kicking back on all this. I want Doctor Who to be escapist. I don't want it to be in Canal Street. I don't want it in a nightclub. I don't want it in the middle of London. You know, when he went all London centric with the first era, you know, let's have a red London bus all the time. There's no need. Android Invasion did very nicely with no London buses. Terror of the Zygons did very nicely with no London buses. Cinnamon, I know.
But even then, doesn't that show the difference? Because at least I know you didn't. Maybe you weren't so keen on it, but like even back then, you could see how patriotic he was. Yeah, there were London buses everywhere, and yeah, you did see the Queen waving at the Titanic.
Yeah,
You know,
and the
it was sort of
the
you
Spitfires
wasn't
as well.
afraid to be British back then, whereas now it would probably seem more interested in tearing it down. So it seems there's a bit of a difference there. Whereas before, it was proud to be British and proud to be a British show, and he'll sit there in interviews and say, "Oh, it's a British show." But you know, we don't get that sort of attitude now.
Now we've got some fascinating people. Sean, it's a pleasure to hear from you. I'm an author with a publisher. One day I'd quite fancy have given it a go, who has written over 10 LGBT books. And always at the forefront of my mind was the story, the plot, the character, and not the gayness. Because why has science fiction been popular in the past? You've got somebody who lives on a planet that you've never visited because it doesn't exist, but you can relate to them somehow because the character's so well drawn or the world is so well built. You kind of go, do you know, that's a little bit like where I live in a way. And you make people make the leap, the imaginative leap. With good writing, you can make them believe in that Zoggian elite from the planet Zog, even though all this is made up because it's well written. But if it's not well written, as Sean Kerr says, all you're left is the representation. And then people go, well, I'm actually not gay, so I'm not really that interested in that, really. I don't hate, but I'm not interested. I'm not trans.
Yeah, because it
Yeah.
would, you know, for example, if I was to read one of your books and it was just like you say, if it was all just about gayness, you know, as I'm not gay myself, but it would be like, and even if you were gay, wouldn't that just get old after a while? You're reading this book and 20 chapters in, it's still gay, gay, gay. Where's the story? Because again, you know, you don't have to be. You know, I watched Queer as Folk and I enjoyed it. Not a gay person, but I still enjoyed the show. I thought it was
Yeah.
funny. You know, I mean, there's questionable bits about a 15-year-old having sex.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
okay, but yeah, there's that bit.
Yeah.
We think we
Yeah,
went over that a bit before, but
if
you
the
know,
story's
enjoy
good, you're
some
going to
fun.
enjoy it.
Well, as Lee Smith says, and I'm always worried about that. And Lee Smith, I won't even use that phrase. I know you quote an RTD, but when he says, you know, queer energies repel viewers, I'm worried about that. I'm concerned, right? I'm a Doctor Who fan. I want Doctor Who not to be crushed, but I think everything I'm hoping for is not happening. As a gay man, I don't want a backlash in any culture against gay people or LGBT. I don't want a backlash. But if things are written badly, if diets are forced down your throat, people will resist or get angry or get sick of it. And I don't want people going, oh. What I've noticed now in our culture is, you know, like that referee who got sacked for, you know, slagging off Klopp. And he says, well, I'm gay. And you're thinking,
Oh yeah, let's play a card.
everybody says they're gay now. It's
Kind of
like,
ironic for a referee.
and I'm thinking, hey, we're not victims either. This is just all wrong. We're not predators. We're not like the 15th Doctor. Can we just stop it? I don't watch Emmerdale. I don't watch Coronation Street, and I don't watch EastEnders. So I don't want soap opera plots in Doctor Who. There's plenty of soaps out there. Can we now do a sci-fi concept? AI would be a very interesting concept to do in sci-fi. Cloning. There's so many new words. I mean, clone's been around for a while, but there's a lot of new science out there. And really, can everybody remember of a certain age, you'd watch Tomorrow's World on Thursday night, and then there'd be interesting concepts on there, and then you could almost hope that Doctor Who would do a version or a spin on it. Now, you know, can you imagine Tomorrow's World? It would all be about, you know, I need cheering up, but I don't know how it's ever going to happen at the moment. Adrian Sherlock here. Doctor Who was allegorical. We took the fact that the Doctor was an alien as a way of saying he's a diverse person without having it kind of, you know, he has to act like that. Frankenstein, as a 99% heterosexual man, I am 100% over the gay agenda, and so is my boyfriend. Daniel, oh God, we've got to laugh. Cosmic Toy Man, for decades we had stories that were great. Sexuality had naught to do with it. There weren't straight stories, there were just stories. Why do we need LGBT? I agree, because if we take all the labels away, we stop dividing each other, we become just humans. Can we tell a human story?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like going back to what you were saying just now, like, I mean, one of my best friends, and we've known each other since we were 12. He's gay, but he's like you. He doesn't like bang on about it. He just happens to be gay and then gets on with his life. It's just all of this shoving everything in and, you know, promoting who you are. Like, I mean, he doesn't go around promoting it or trying to recruit or anything. He's just a normal bloody person.
It's also a bore. It's also a bore. If I go to the pub with my mates and all I talk about is my sexuality, or stories about my sexuality, or politics about my sexuality, I'm a bore.
Exactly. It's if that's all you've got, then
You'd be a vain
why
person.
you know, like, read a book, play a game, watch a TV show, cultivate a personality. Let's ironically quote Gatwa, touch some grass.
Yeah, get a life. Just I mean, sci-fi has nothing to do with my sexuality. I enjoyed the adventure. I enjoyed some of the villains. I enjoyed some of the monsters. I enjoyed the creativity of being scared and how do you get out of it. I don't want to be bothered about, oh, that villain. Oh, he's a bit like Keir Starmer. We don't want all that crap. I just want to be taken away. Now, RP's onto it. I have suspicions about Alpha Centauri. Yeah. I tell you what, in this culture, we could have Alpha Centauri back. Alpha Centauri might have a spin-off. Yeah. The spin-off with all the tentacles. Brendan, you're right. Well, I don't want to be Farsight. Look at how Kit Pedler used transplant surgery as an inspiration of the Cybermen. And look how well that went until people started butchering the Cybermen and making them into clones of the Borg and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Adrian Sherlock, the character of Alpha Centauri was a hermaphrodite. And this was a sci-fi way of saying not every life form is male or female. Yeah. Yeah, and that was it.
It's a bit like how again people like to be disingenuous and be all trying to act smart and think they're really something and they're not when they try and say, oh yeah, but Doctor Who Rtd'1 era always had things like, oh, ladies and gentlemen and variations thereupon, like it was in Midnight where the hostess says that. Now that isn't woke. That's because the difference there is in a sort of sci-fi world where, again, on a futuristic planet that's made up, there could be male and female and variations of thereupon. It's the future. It's sci-fi. There might not be a planet. There might be a planet where the life form doesn't. We're just thousands and thousands in this Doctor Who universe where there are hermaphrodite characters, neither male or female or anything like that. So it makes sense in that sort of context. They did it as well in, what was it, The Long Game, where the woman said it as well, a similar sort of quote, similar line.
But you wouldn't want to.
Different intention when they say things like that.
Well, it's now they've made the 15th Doctor gay. We have to see him go in the bushes with Rogue. So if Alpha Centauri did come back, we'd have Alpha Centauri being sexual. It was a good line in Curse of the Peladon. Just leave it. Now, Philip Morris, who was on our show last week, I mean, he texted this the other day. I just wanted to get your opinion on it, everybody. He says Doctor Who is now a zombie franchise. Just like with The Acolyte, it is the culmination of multiple failures. That is the signature on the death certificate. Now, I haven't gone that far yet because I'm always trying to be hopeful. But to be quite honest, what I'm saying is, have we hit the iceberg? Is the ship holed below the waterline? Are the rats jumping the ship? Where do you stand, lads? So, Rhoda, is this a zombie franchise? Is this Dead Man Walking?
It's got to be suspended. I don't want to say cancelled, because obviously that can mean something else now. And also, we do want more Doctor Who, but it needs to be suspended. It needs a whole new writing team. Whole new. It needs well, not a new ethos. It needs to go back to the old ethos. I mean, like I
Cultural
started.
reset.
Yeah, kind of. That sounds a little dangerous, to be honest, Cinnamon. Can you go further into that?
Well, a cultural reset, in the shift of mentality, because the mentality isn't the same.
Them.
The culture isn't the same as it was in 2005. Because in 2005, the whole agenda there was to bring Doctor Who back in the 21st century, and not just bring it back, but bring it back with a bang, and make it modern, and make it contemporary, and it was successful in that. Whereas now the culture has shifted. It's not about the art anymore. It's not about making stories for the story's sake. It's all about it's everything to do. It's Doctor Who and everything else. It's every time you think about Doctor Who, it's discussions within the fandom. You go on Twitter, it's not a discussion about Doctor Who, it'll be a discussion about identity politics, or there'll be some label or some buzzword. It's
Yeah.
like, even this stream. Are we talking about how good this episode is? Oh, no, we're talking about all these other things.
Yeah.
So
Like,
when I say cultural
where does this
reset,
person come from?
we need a shift in mentality.
Except,
what do they do with their parts?
yeah, I mean,
we don't want to know that. We just, like,
the thing is,
straight
I mean,
I don't want the Doctor to be gay. I don't want the Doctor to be straight. I don't want the Doctor to be sexualized at all. I don't care if the actor's gay. I don't care if the actor's straight. I don't want the Doctor to be sexualized.
I think you can get away with a lot if, like Mad Mackham says, you do it this way. If Doctor Who could get a writer's room like the excellent Schitt's Creek, you would. I mean, they've got. I mean, I watched Schitt's Creek recently. I come late to things sometimes, and it's got lots of different representation there. But the stories and the characters are just so well written that actually that's fine. But I think we all sniff out a rat when we know that it's representation first, second, and third. And somewhere there's I mean, come on. The Church on Ruby Road was not a story. It was Jack and the Beanstalk with a song and dance routine and a bit of soap opera with all this nonsense about snow and that carol being sang all the time and the foundling. There was no story there at all. It was a hodgepodge of scenes. You look at a lot of the stories that Rtd's writing, and they're the lamest of stories. Space babies stuck on a ship with an accountant who's learned how to use the computer, and all their poo and methane and crap has made a bogeyman and stuff like. You say, is that it? Is that it? And this is a man who says he's more worried about representation and trans issues and gay issues and stuff like that. And he's written a story about bogies making a bogey monster. Is that so? That's the big issue of the world. That's the big H.G. Wells moment. Honestly, it's not sci-fi. It's the lamest, weakest postage stamp of a story.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the actual episode, but I've seen like 3, 4, maybe 5 reviews of it and loads of screenshots and that. I know basically what happened, and I mean, he's trying to make a serious TV show, and it's just one big fart joke. It's
like cartoon. It's cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, a cartoon would be better. I mean, look at Star Trek Lower Decks. It's way more entertaining than Discovery or what's it called, Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, and this is why, I mean, as you said, Cinnamon, you've got Toby Whitehouse, Mark Gatiss and everything. But I think the truth is, when everybody refers to the Fitzroy Tavern and stuff like that, I think in the end, you have to say, look, Doctor Who in its next step has to be completely new broom of writers and producers. No you know, oh, here he is again, he or she is again. I think it needs to be fresh. They've had 21 years owning this show, you know, now. That they've had a good go. So we've got these writers, and obviously let's have a little deeper dive into them, okay? So these 4 were announced, and I have to say on this channel, I try my desperate best not to be triggered and to go down what would be a dangerous road, which is if I see a photograph and then go, it must be DI casting. Research first, then we can say stuff. Anyway, so let's have a look at these people and look a bit more detail, right? The reaction's obviously not gone down well. You can see some of the reactions here to these. In an effort to save Doctor Who, the BBC has hired transgender author Juno Dawson, best known for writing This Book is Gay. This is good news, as the show really wasn't gay enough. Yes, here's Price of Reason. Now, let's just start with one of them. So as you said, Cinnamon, poet, has written stuff about unicorns at the Fringe and some plays called the Barbershop Chronicles. But he says, for as long as I can remember TV, I've been a Doctor Who fan. I started watching when I was 10 in Nigeria. The show invited me to dream, to live beyond my reality. Yeah, I think we call it escapism. Getting to write for the show felt like touching God. It was, oh God, don't tell Stephen Moffat he doesn't believe. It was blasphemously humbling and exciting, and I can't wait to share my story with the world. Right, lads, so far so good or not?
I mean,
the right things.
So far so good, I suppose.
He's what? Sorry? I can't hear.
Sorry, I thought Cinnamon was talking. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was letting you go. But
what did you say,
I was just going
Cinnamon?
to say, it seems like he's saying the right things. You know, he's been watching the show before. He's well, I mean, we've had Chibnall and Russell at their self-proclaimed fans, you know, but and they make decisions that you wouldn't think opposite. But he says the right things.
One thing I'm interested
at the moment. It's hard to say. We don't know what his episode is. We don't know what it's about. We've seen absolutely nothing yet. He's again, you know,
his story. His story. Let's have a look. Is called. It hasn't got a name yet. There it is. It's but there is one story where most, I think, if not all of the cast are ethnic, which I suppose is the contrast to Dot and Bubble. So whether there's a story about, you know, being colorblind or something, I don't know. But it looks as though it could be that one. The one thing I would say, and it is just speculation, is okay, so he's from Nigeria and he was watching Doctor Who up to when he was 10 in Nigeria. The thing is, Doctor Who, and I'm going to just say this, is a quintessentially British show. And I don't care who writes for it, as long as you understand how it works. And if he was watching in Nigeria and he thought, oh my gosh, I can understand the British mindset. I can see how this is quirky and funny, but also takes itself seriously in different ways, then okay, you write for it because you get it. I hope he does, because I don't want this global streaming platform to make Doctor Who diluted, changed, twisted, manipulated, and turned into Stranger Things, turned into X-Files, turned into something else. It was something unique. Don't change it. So if this person living in Africa understood how Doctor Who worked, I'm fine. Now,
yeah, if it's a good story, it's a good story.
I'm interested because having lived in Australia, for example, we share the same language and some similar history. If I wrote a story about being an Australian and I brought in Aborigines and I brought in the Dreamtime and various things, I bet you I wouldn't do a very good job, because there's something about me. I haven't been brought up in Australia. I haven't felt the connection to Australia. I'm bright and I will work out what Australia culture seems to feel like, but there'd be a falseness there because I'm not doing it. And I'm going to say that that's about anything. It's very hard to write about another culture. It is. What we used to say at school is you write about your own. and you do it that way because you're authentic. Then that's what it's like to be me and to migrate to another country, and you do it that way. But you see, this is not an apprenticeship. Doctor Who is a global brand. It's not a little show at 3 p.m. with only 5 people watching. This is a global show, and it needs the best of the best of the best of the sci-fi writers, and there's never many available to be there. Now, if I go into Waterstones, I will see loads of books, science fiction. Has anybody approached any of those science fiction novelists and said, I will mentor you to write a TV script? I know you can write a novel. In fact, I'd love that novel to be turned into a Doctor Who script. And I, as RTD, will mentor you. Has anybody approached proper, authentic science fiction writers? Or are we going to look for other people who may not understand science fiction, may not even understand what's so quintessentially British about Doctor Who?
Possibly. I mean, all I want from him, again, most of us, we're not expecting the world. We just want an enjoyable story. I wish him the best. He's already written it. It's already been filmed. So
Yep.
I mean, we're probably months away from seeing it. I look forward to him. I wish him the best of luck. I've got again now. At this point, there's only so much you can say. In that quote there, it seems to say the right things.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was born in the 90s, Doctor Who wasn't on, but unless there was reruns or something, I think someone in the comments has just pointed that out. But, fair play to him. I think I just want him to understand the show. He doesn't have to write a whole big doctorate of British history. He just has to get it, to get what the show's about, get that the show's about celebrating life. I think that's a big message that I think Doctor Who needs to remember that he used to do, celebrate life, because it seemed to do that very well in the first couple of seasons of the RTD run back in 2005 onwards. It seemed to celebrate life very well, and I think go back to that. Just make it fun, and less of the self inserts. And honestly, if you just stick to if he sticks to how he is there, he's saying the right things for me. He's not. There's nothing there that's giving me a red flag. And if he just sticks to that, he'll be fine. The second he starts coming out and starts saying, "Oh, Doctor Who's this, this, and this," and that start making bold, sweeping statements,
Except
many have
my
said
issue
before.
is. Except my issue is RTD doesn't seem to know what Doctor Who is, and he seems to be twisting it. So if he's the mentor of people who haven't got a science fiction background, where's this recipe going? Somebody who's deliberately failing to understand Doctor Who and he's in charge of it is now mentoring new writers into Doctor Who. I can't see any other version other than it's not going to look like Doctor Who. Now, the one that is getting everybody talking, of course, is Juno Dawson, who I didn't know much about. So I'm not coming into this with, previous. But when I looked and researched various things about Juno Dawson, this new writer for Doctor Who, I mean, their language is full of hate. Their language is divisive. I don't know how this is allowed. I mean, the laugh is when we get people like John Barrowman, who, can be cancelled, and we've got an article about him. We've got Noel Clarke, who's been through the mill. When we look at Neil Gaiman's now facing an awful lot of criticism, fairly or unfairly. You've got all these things going on, and then somebody has a platform and can be full of anger and aggression and division, and they're given a job. Now, how can that be? So you see that Instagram there, to the haters. I mean, fancy starting. To the haters, who said, I can't keep secrets in your face. You see, as an English teacher, I'm already thinking, why is the language so aggressive?
You're supposed to be writing a script and you're spelling haters with a Z. You're supposed to be taking.
I was just going to say that. You can't even spell the word.
Well, but of course they can spell, but they just want to twist it because it's trendy. Yeah. So their background,
like a 15-year-old online.
Now, before we go into what we've heard or looked up about Juno Dawson, I've got to give you the straight truth. Yeah, is a #1 Sunday Times best-selling novelist, screenwriter, and journalist. Now, if you hear that, you go, well, that sounds all right, doesn't it? I mean, Sunday Times best-selling novelist, screenwriter, and journalist, whose books include This Book is Gay and Her Majesty's Royal Coven. Her debut short film was The Birth of Venus, and she created the first official Doctor Who scripted podcast, The Doctor Who Redacted. And I've seen people in the margin already say that's not too hot. And then Juno says, I started watching Doctor Who with my grandma when I was 10. Oh, is there something about being 10? From writing fan fiction for an audience of 1 to scripting the best TV show of all time is truly a dream come true. I can't wait for fans and newcomers to seeing the new season. Again, on the surface, Cinnamon, I know that sounds fine, doesn't it?
Can you still hear me? It's going a bit funny.
Yes, I'll keep talking then because I don't know.
You froze for a minute. But you're back now.
Hello. Right. Okay. I'll keep talking then. So, we've got.
Me, just
go on. Well, jump in now. Jump in now.
Fix.
Okay, right. I'll keep talking then. I don't like to kind of just leave pauses. Right. So he's Juno Dawson-Rhoda. Now, that first quote sounded okay, but I have to say, you only have to dig a bit, and there's so much anger and division and lack of inclusion here that I just don't know how you can get a job in this global brand. I'm not going to read every line out because some of it I can't. There are a lot of gay men out there who are gay men as a consolation prize because there couldn't be women. That was certainly true of me. Now, I'm not going to spend all my show today talking about sexuality. I'm just going to say, where's the Doctor Who bit? Where's the sci-fi bit? Where's the saying, I've always enjoyed talking about and then I knew I wanted to be the woman when it came to sex. It was a conscious urge to be objectified, basically.
I mean, where's the job? The job is to write science fiction. Imagine you're turning up to interview as a mechanic and you say, oh, like, my best quality is I look really good in makeup. It's keep it relevant to the job, keep it relevant to what you're supposed to be doing. Why is this person saying this? And also, isn't that really, I mean, I'm straight myself, but as I mentioned, one of my really, really close friends is very much out and happy, proud gay man. Isn't that like really insulting to gay people?
Well, yeah, and like I said, in a way,
for not being a woman.
In a way, I'm not going to be triggered because obviously, yeah, there's so much there. I'm going to try desperately as a Doctor Who fan to keep thinking, right, okay, these quotes are nothing to do with Doctor Who, but they weren't meant to be. This is before they got the job. I get that. But when people, as part of their authorship, as part of what's made them famous to get the job in Doctor Who, talk in such an aggressive, objectifying, it's a very reductionist way of women. It's a very dim view of what it is to be a woman. I don't know how you can get a job on Doctor Who where you're supposed to be very open and inclusive and everything. And of course, the track record of Juno Dawson, when I look it up, This Book is Gay was removed from Children's Books Ireland's reading guides. You can see why. There was an awful lot of controversy about it. So, this is it's a beautiful family TV sci-fi show, and we need it to be in trusted hands. Like you see in The Guardian here, UK school denies Juno Dawson visit, was cancelled because she is transgender. And it wasn't. It was because some of the material people just didn't think the kids should be hearing at that point. And that's up to the school and the parents. Of course it is. The Independent. All my life, I thought I was a gay man, but according to Juno Dawson, in Attitude Today, I'm actually a trans woman. And this is when I'm thinking, oh, people, please just go and find yourself, but don't as you're in the middle of your confusion, start writing Doctor Who scripts, for God's sake.
What, in the same
lot
way
of
of
game-
Sam Smith, in 5 and 10 years, you're going to stick your finger up in the end when you feel, oh, and actually I was something else all along.
Yeah, I know. And then you think, well, there was no need for that language in that story or for that line. And again, you've got people, Deborah Cameron, a psychologist, was saying, how can Juno Dawson call herself a feminist when she's labeling women as TERFs? That old chestnut, yeah? And then you've got UK school denies Juno Dawson visit was cancelled because she's transgender. And I wanted to show you this element here. It'll come up in a minute. But the reactions, I'm not seeing very happy reactions to this one. And there's yours, Cinnamon. Ah, yes, it's because you're trans. Do the typical boring thing and hide behind your identity. Do not gaslight us. You're being rightly criticised because how on earth someone who writes disgusting books intended for children is allowed to write for a family show is insane. I suppose I should give you right of reply or explanation.
Well, yeah, because I'm just going to say it as it is, and I'm going to try and word it in the best way I can because it's your channel and I don't want to be respectful.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say it. This is just a vile, hateful person. And I'm genuinely ashamed of Russell. Immensely disappointed how we've come to this point. I mean, again, the absolute cheek. If I was to come to you, Brendan, and say, do you know what? I don't think you're actually who you are. I think you're just settling for second best. I think you're just a consolation because you just can't internalize this. You just can't help. You just can't admit that you're trans and you can't do it. So you have to second. You know who you are. You're in your 50s. You'd like to think you know who you are at that point. If you don't know who you are and don't know what your place in the world, you don't have to have everything. I mean, look at me. I'm 22. I haven't got everything in my life figured out yet. Nor should I do. I'm young. I'm going to make mistakes. That's just life. The one thing you should always, and I've found this out myself. You'll always have bumps in the road. You'll always have mistakes in life. You'll always have issues. That's just something you've got to learn to accept. It's how you move past them is the issue. Now, when I see this, and again, I'm not even so bothered about the other writers because this person, I said earlier, sucks the energy out the room completely.
Yeah.
Because again, how on earth, like I just said in that tweet, how you can have someone who's written disgusting material intended for children, and it is intended for children. Look it up. It says 13 to 15-year-olds teaching children.
Yeah, I want. Yeah,
Again, it's not even. For a child should be learning about sex education in a classroom with an appropriate teacher in an appropriate setting. A teacher, a certified teacher, or a parent. It's not for me to take it upon myself to sit there and write a book teaching, not just about because again, when I was in school, I had science books and books that will teach me about whatever, but there were certified books for a scientific and educational purpose, not teaching me what scat is and teaching me what dating apps are and how I can meet people online.
Yeah, we won't do the detail because I have to say I don't. Yeah, you're right though. I don't want it on here, and equally, I wouldn't have it discussed in my classroom. And this is the point.
I'm sorry, but this is really big. I mean, I'm not going to throw certain words out there and accuse Juno of being a certain person because that's quite a leap, and I'm not sure I'm quite ready to make that jump.
I don't.
But
yeah, I don't. The thing is, and what do you think, Rhoda? Look, the more I research this, yes, I know what Cinnamon's saying, which is it's very graphic. The books are about being gay, or the books are about being trans, whatever. But your CV has got you the job on Doctor Who. So you've got to hope that instead of being graphic, some would argue graphic and inappropriate, that suddenly your script for Doctor Who will land appropriate, relevant, and somehow speak to us. But the bits I've seen, never mind the graphic stuff, is I've seen stuff that just seems to be very angry and divisive and not trying to bring people together. And to be honest, isn't that one of the USPs of Doctor Who, that it was about you can all be in on this? Doctor Who's
now it's becoming it's becoming divisive. I mean, it's going to go the way of the climate protesters. You know, they make too much noise, annoy enough people, and people who might have been sympathetic to you are going to turn against you because they're bloody fed up with it.
Yeah,
This is my worry. Like, it's going to it's going to be derogatory towards, or rather make normal people who might normally be sympathetic become very annoyed and even aggressive towards like normal LGBT people, because it's just being forced and pushed so much that people are getting fed up.
Where we see it's the judgment calls. So Cinnamon, some of the stuff you were about to mention then that you've read about, that you know, the graphic stuff that Juno Dawson's written about for kids in a book, right? My big comfort, kind of conclusion from that is the judgment calls, because when you're writing a script, and you know, when we did the war games, you look at Malcolm Clark and Terence Dicks were typing at speed. You know, you're churning out hopefully very good, engaging scripts fast. Rtd's The Writer's Tale. He writes scripts fast and then redrafts them, and it's fast. You've got no time to be, you know, chilling over each comma. So Juno Dawson needs to make some good judgment calls when that script's being written. Now, the judgment calls I see from the books for kids, and having been a teacher of teenagers, I just think it's too graphic. And I think it, personally speaking, I think it's missing the point. Whether you're gay or straight or trans or whatever, do we really need to go down to that atomized level of what you do? I thought it was about love and relationships and being a human and being caring and reaching out to other people. I didn't think we were going to talk about, well, if you're that type of gay, you do that there with this. I mean, blooming hell, it's grossing me out. And I'm mixing the two things of what you're saying. Number one, I don't want a horrible backlash from the mainstream people who do watch Doctor Who. I want people to think this is a safe program for the family to watch, and we're not going to get some strange sexual innuendo. I also want writers who know how to engage me in an interesting story and aren't going to get obsessed with. I mean, the quotes from Juno Dawson, it doesn't sound as though, you know, makes women sound like an orifice, doesn't make it sound like a woman is a human being. Sounds like a sex doll. And I don't want somebody writing for kids who doesn't seem to understand the humanity in somebody, but instead sees people as orifices or labels or things that you do graphic. It's doing things rather than actually the experience. I just think this is not what a writer is, surely. Sorry.
Well, I'm not going to generalize a whole group of people, but that belief and what you've just said there is common amongst a lot of people that we see who are trans. We look at Dylan Mulvaney, and it's all, again, it's like a stereotype. It's got to look what I think women are supposed to look like. It's like, you know, and you see, they would call them TERFs. That would be their words. And again, it's like a character of like a performance. It's all performance. It's all, again, like I said, like a sex doll. It's all reduced. It seems like it's reducing women. You know, it's funny, isn't it? You know, if you've never been a man before, you somehow know what a man is, or what it feels like to be one, and vice versa. But it's just, I see some people that maybe disagree in the chat, saying it's not disgusting, and mentioning about the war and the Nazis. Well, yeah, I learned about the Nazis too in school, but they never showed us footage of people getting shot.
Cinnamon, just when you refer to somebody in a thread, who is it? Because we can actually talk to them. Go on, who is it that said that?
Zero Room made a point, and I respect that point. And he made a point about, I think, about Nazis. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't seem to think it was disgusting. He or she wrote me that assumption.
No, it's Brian. He's one of our panelists, and he's coming from a good place. I'm just trying to work out what's his face said. Right. Okay. So here's an example of Juno Dawson's work, and here's a review: the objectification of children's bodies. And here's a quote. Alice says, "The fact I exist is enough. The fact that I'm young is a bonus. I'm a blow-up doll." Added to this, Alice boasts about his perky little boobs. These views can only be cultivated in a porn-saturated set, and it goes on and on and on. Listen,
This is what I mean. This isn't educational. This isn't a science classroom. This isn't a biology lesson. It's all grotesque perversion. You know, the comments. That's not an educational phrase, is it? It's
no, and my argument is
appropriate.
And my argument is, unlike RTD, I've been in education for 30 years with children. And the one thing that is so relevant is Doctor Who is yes, it's entertaining families. I've been trying to entertain teenagers and educate them. And you've got to keep an eye on safeguarding. And the language that some kids use is off the scale, and you can tell they're watching porn. You can tell their view of the opposite sex, if they're straight, if they seem to be straight, is too objectified. They don't see the other person as something you have a relationship with or you have an experience with. It seems to be more about what you get out of it. They've got it all wrong. Now, that's not everybody, but there's the dangers. And I don't know how we can have a writer coming into Doctor Who seems to think like that. I would call it
setting a sorry, go on, finish your point.
No, to me that's immature, and it's debasing what a human is. And sci-fi is normally elevated writing about humanity. It's normally about the greater concepts. It's not about debasing us. It's not Barbarella in the TARDIS.
I'm just sorry, Rhoda. I don't mean to suck all the energy or the attention off the screen, but it's just I'm astounded. You know, I look at things at the time as child, and how understandably we're frustrated by that.
Yeah,
that seems so small in comparison to this, because this is real life. This isn't a storyline in a TV show that we rightly don't like. How on earth someone as hateful and as questionable, and again, for the same people that are sat there on Twitter right now saying, "Oh, Juno Dawson, future showrunner," are the same people who are also slamming Neil Gaiman. And now again, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. I'm not here to say whether he did it or not. It's not my place. But we're so quick to label him and put him down.
This is what I mean.
Someone who's writing such questionable material intended for children, and they're getting a job on a family show.
Yep.
For the BBC on their behalf, which is funded by us. So
I have to say, Cinnamon, I completely agree with you. It's just it's so annoying that they have to like sink their vampire teeth into something that already exists and was beautiful. You know, if you want to tell these stories, tell these stories, but don't steal Doctor Who, don't steal Star Trek, don't steal like Marvel or Star Wars. If you want to write those stories and market them towards the people who want them. Don't try to change other people. That's not your right. You can't like use something that somebody loves to burrow into their head and try to make them like you. It's not fair. It's not right. And frankly, I find it disgusting.
This was my argument a week last Sunday when I said we now only have Doctored Who. And it feels like the new Who makers overall just hate classic Who, and they're just changing it completely. And, as you're saying, can you just please write for Doctor Who? Can you not change it into what you are interested in? If RTD wants to write about gay issues, fine, good, and it might be worthy, and it's a sin I thought was very good. Go and write that. But as Philip Morris said, when he did come on our show a week ago, he said, hold on, Brendan, you're saying he's a good writer. You need to kind of change that slightly. He's a good writer for adult drama, not for family drama. And I conceded that point. He's never properly written family drama that's been successful. Queer as Folk was late at night. It's a Sin was after 9. They are good dramas, but they're not for kids.
But I mean, even without that element, like imagine if I took over as Doctor Who showrunner and I decided to make it all about Carlos Sainz, Jarvis Cocker, and whatever the hell else I'm into, and not about Doctor Who. It would be, nobody would watch it. The fans would be angry because it wouldn't be Doctor Who.
But isn't it? But on your very same point, Rhoda, that's just like me being an English teacher and going into a class saying, well, it's all about me. And my issues are this. So I'm going to find a book that's about my issues. So we're actually talking about me. There's one or two teachers, there shouldn't be many, who are like that. It's egocentric. And they twist the curriculum to fit their issues. And the kids are having to basically feed this. And as you say, whoever you are, whatever you are, go and sort it out. And as Cinnamon said, hopefully in my 50s, I know who I am now. I think Cinnamon always does sound as though he knows who he is, actually. I have to say, Cinnamon, I don't think
I like to think so. I'm comfortable in my sexuality, and I know. But I recognise my flaws. It's just, like I say, you'll always have flaws. And, and it's just, I'm probably getting off track. It's just, I just, even away from all the controversy, take away all the children in the book element. What is Juno Dawson? What? I mean, I didn't listen to Redacted. I'm not going to say it's terrible because I haven't listened to it, but I've been informed by people that I can trust their opinion. Again, it's not my opinion; it's their opinion, but I can respect it and probably trust it. They didn't give it a very high review. It didn't. It's not something I even want to even be interested. I don't even want to listen to it. So, but even that, what body of work do you justify? Because if I go and apply for a job, it all comes down to experience. So why is this any different? If you're part of a certain group, or if you're this,
well, let me just
start.
Just to authenticate this for a second, because we're getting so bogged down in issues I never thought I'd be talking about on the Sense Free. I really didn't, and
Exactly.
I'm gutted that RTD has taken us on such a strange turn, and not just for one episode, but this is becoming consuming. So let me just remind everybody that we do love Doctor Who, and I think this is why. Tell me in the thread and panelists, after you've seen this, am I right? Is this what Doctor Who is, or was, or should be?
Yeah, that makes me want to jump over to my right and grab one of my many classic Who DVDs. That makes me want to watch Doctor Who.
Yeah, a great episode 1. Scare me rigid. Obviously I know what's going to happen because I've seen them before, but I wish I could have a moment when I'm going to watch a future Doctor Who, and it's going to. Obviously, as an adult, it's not going to scare me behind the sofa, but it might thrill me. I really am envious, and I'm sad that I don't think that's going to happen ever again.
I wouldn't say it'll never happen again. I think it'll be a long time. I think the show needs to die and come back. I think it needs a big old hiatus, and it needs to come back made by fans who actually really love classic Doctor Who in exactly the same way. This is the little glimmer of hope that I'm offering here. The recent Tomb Raider games have been shite, but just lately, well, last February, what are they called? I can't remember what the developers are called, and I'm quite embarrassed about that, but they hired a load of super fans from the 90s to remake and remaster the original 3 Tomb Raider games, and the other 3 original Tomb Raider games are coming out next February. And the first lot of that, they made them so well. They were so authentic to the original games. And I think the same thing could happen with Doctor Who. I think if the franchise dies, and then a few years later, a production company gets the rights and hire a load of super fans to remake the show, to not remake, continue, preferably continue from Doctor I Let You Go. Let's ignore all the timeless child stuff. But I think it could happen for Doctor Who as well, because if it can happen for a video game, it can happen for a TV show.
Yeah. Now, just to kind of balance this up, everybody, because I feel as I've been so Juno Dawsoned out there, and there's more to come. But I think let's get back to a bit of other news about Doctor Who, but it's not good. So Peter McTighe is the one we all know the best out of that selection of writers. But as Cinnamon was saying before we started our stream today, that's not promising either. It's not the best stuff. Now he's seen as this trusted pair of hands. He's the one who's done the spin-off. I mean, oh my God. So yes. Now you've got
who doesn't have a trusted pair of hands at the moment.
No, he doesn't, and neither is RTD a trusted pair of hands. What Space Babies, Devil's Cord, to name but two. Then you look at this Bad Wolf. I mean, I know years ago that Bad Wolf logo was just black, and now it's got the rainbow insignia. And I do sometimes wonder if the world would be better if it was just the whole blooming thing was a rainbow. When we come across, let's go sci-fi for a second, some alien species discovers the Earth. I thought we were a blue planet. Wouldn't it be better if we were just in rainbow colors? Because then it would reveal, keep away from us, because we really are clueless. So yes, and I have to say, again, as a gay man, as a gay Whovian, I should say, I know the scams that these businesses do, BMW, all the big businesses. You know that they do the rainbow colors for, gay pride and that in Europe. But do they in the Middle East? No, because they're two-faced. I think it's more truthful to say that like Disney like Disney and a lot of companies in America, now that Trump's in and they know the wind is blowing in a different direction, they've all dropped DEI like a brick straight away. So in other words, they had no conviction. They didn't believe in it. It was a fad.
Yeah.
And I really personally think, can we get real? Are you really saying that your whole company in its blood is that? It's a lot of baloney. But as you know, it's been doing the rounds. So I want to just mention it to everybody here and see what you actually truly think. You know everybody in the thread, and Cinnamon and Rhoda. Some streamers are saying, oh, this is good evidence. If Bad Wolf Studios have an empty studio and they're trying to kind of advertise it, it means Doctor Who's over, or it means, the deal with Disney's over. Does it mean that? Or does it mean, as we all know, they're not filming yet?
Well, what it means is the studio's empty. That's all it means. A studio being empty could mean it's been emptied because they need it to build a new set for a new show. Maybe it's another series of Doctor Who. Maybe it's a new TARDIS design. Maybe it's a completely different show altogether. Or maybe they are going out of business. We know nothing. An empty room does not tell you anything.
There's so many different things, Cinnamon, aren't there? I mean, Bad Wolf has a deal with the BBC to make Doctor Who. And it was RTD, when RTD was approached by the BBC to make 3 specials. That was it, remember, at the beginning. He thought that was it. They approached RTD, and RTD said, I'll come back if you do it with Bad Wolf. He forced the Bad Wolf connection because he knows Julie and Jane. Now, Bad Wolf now have the contract to do Doctor Who. This, obviously, as you know, says they've got some spare studio space, and obviously, the size of it, and we can make stuff for you. Please come and negotiate. Now, does that mean that Doctor Who is not being made there anymore? Or not in the, that studio space could be available for, say, the next 6 months. So, it's a wasted space if you're not using it. Or the other possibility is, I mean, everyone's getting waffling on about Disney, but maybe the BBC are saying we're not happy with Bad Wolf. Bad Wolf and RTD have ballsed up Doctor Who. The contract with both of you is over.
But again, it could be any of those things. I mean, like you say, this could even just be an advertisement. Oh, we've got some space for a lot of amount of time. Any productions get in contact, so to speak. And I know we were kind of a bit flippant, oh, they're not filming because not filming, but why they're not filming. I think that's the question most people are getting at. Why aren't they filming Doctor Who? What's the reason behind that? Okay, we're waiting for this. Again, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's an expert. Everyone's either shooting it down completely. This is absolutely. There's nothing going on here. Stop looking. stop paying attention, and then you've got the people who are absolutely saying, "Yeah, it's cancelled. Doctor Who is dead," and all that. But
Yeah.
it's all up in the air, and there is no answer until we get one. It's we're waiting again, according to Russell. We're waiting for an answer. We're waiting for an answer, presumably after season 2. They're not exactly in a rush to give a yes, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So maybe the fact that we're having to wait, and it doesn't strike optimism within me, because why we're waiting, because the longer we wait, it means the longer that it will take for them to start filming. And there was the thing about no gap years, so clearly it's not going maybe as smoothly
No.
as
And
maybe originally
And
thought.
and Neville's comment here, I don't think I've ever seen such anger in fandom. It gives me a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, the feeling you get when something's over. Neville, I know. Now, I'm the Generation X Whovian. I know what the 80s and 90s felt like. And I agree with those people who I've seen tweeting saying, just because we survived the 90s and we call them the wilderness years and there was some great creativity, that we can do it again. There's no guarantee there'll be a future version of RTD who will bring back Doctor Who again and save it. I think when it's over, it might be over. And
I think I think it was kind of lucky it came back even when it did, because we tried it with the TV movie, and that didn't quite strike a chord. So people might have thought even after that, "Oh, you've tried it once. You tried the movie and it didn't work. Why are you trying it again? Clearly, it's not going to work." And they didn't, did they? The BBC didn't think it was going to work. They all took the
I'm sorry,
afterwards.
I'm waving around my Dalek gun here. Sorry, my broken Dalek. Sorry, it must have been an anger. But as Neville's saying, I have vibes from the 80s, actually, when Doctor Who was still on the TV, but all we heard about was trouble behind the stage. We heard about Robert Holmes being ill. We heard about Eric Serid and JNT not getting on. We heard about Andrew Cartmel, and all the shenanigans going on. We heard about whether Colin Baker was coming back or not. We heard about whether there'd be another series or not. And he just went on. Michael Great can't stand Doctor Who. And Neville, you're spot on. This has the vibe of we're talking about behind the scenes. We're not talking about the show in front of the screen.
That's all we do. I mean, look at this very same stream. We're talking about inappropriate books for children. I don't want to talk about that, to be honest.
No,
I don't enjoy it. I'm getting a bit frustrated about it because it's an important topic. But I don't sit here on a Doctor Who stream talking with a very great audience about these sort of issues. I want to talk about how good Doctor Who is. I want to do it like Brendan says. We want to focus on the Doctor Who. That's what this is here for. We're not here to talk about details. But yet, again, like always, Doctor Who always seems to get dragged through the mud and get dragged into these conversations because of the people involved. And again, this is why I was saying before, that's why I'm so sick and so sick of it to my back teeth and so fed up with fandom, just in general fandom. Because it's boring. It's not fun anymore. It's all the topics and conversations about external.
But this takes me back. I mean, I always make the analogy with football. That when Middlesbrough Football Club went bankrupt in the 80s, as well as Doctor Who tanking, all the stories were about behind and not the football pitch. And as a football fan, I wanted to talk about whether we scored a goal, whether we got 3 points. But of course, you can't when you're bankrupt and it's all about finance and accounts and who's going to do the ownership and buyouts and stuff like that. Who's going to own the gates? Who's going to own and who's going to pay the staff bills? And that's where we've got to. Now, fans are passionate and are bothered and are engaged. And unfortunately, our direction of gaze has gone on to this because this is where the action is, because they are taking control of the TV program and they're taking it in a direction that isn't Doctor Who. So we either sit compliantly and go, not my show anymore, where's the grass? Or you go, hold on a minute. As my mum said, you're the kid who was the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes. You call it out. That the Emperor's naked. Can't anyone see it? This is not Doctor Who. Can we please say that out loud? This is not Doctor Who. Now, Zero Room is Brian. Yeah.
Come on,
Brian,
Cinnamon, you say it as well.
sorry?
I said, come on, Cinnamon, you say it as well. This is not Doctor Who.
It's certainly not a Doctor Who that I'm 100% recognise. It's got fragments of potential, but then it lets itself down.
Right, can you give me 30, 40 seconds? I need to grab something from downstairs to make a point.
Okay. Okay, we'll keep going. Geraint Williams here. Didn't quite understand why in the giggle a big point was made of 14 going into 15's TARDIS, but it's the same except for the jukebox. Good idea, badly executed. Geraint, I don't really know. I don't know the decisions they're making at all. I'm trying to see what the great drama was or the engagement. It just seems to be we're filling space. At the end of the great climax to the season, Empire of Death, we had about, 12 or 13 minutes looking for our mam. It's like, oh, what? It's like, oh, that's not sci-fi. That's Emmerdale.
This is the mentality that's just shifted. It's all about. I mean, does everyone remember that? I know it was only a couple of months ago, but it's like as if that this is an actual
Oh,
storyline in modern day sci-fi Doctor Who. Oh, so instead of having a genuine, like, complex, interesting, cool sci-fi thing, no, we're gonna try and be clever about it and play on it and say, actually, no, it was nothing all along. It was human and relationships. Because according to Russell, people just around the dinner table don't talk about the Zog planet. I mean, we seem to be doing okay in the 2000s, but it was popular back then. David Tennant was a household name. Didn't seem to be any issues there. But now apparently we're regressing as a society, and we can't talk about sci-fi anymore. And it can only talk about things that we can literally physically relate to. Like, I don't know, it has to be about adoption or something like that for us to be able to watch it.
you see, Cinnamon, and this is it. If you look at the screen here, this is from Gary Lee, of course. He always makes the posters, so it's nice and tasty for me. But basically, to link with that Bad Wolf news, which may be non-news, Bad Wolf insiders have said that obviously Disney has walked away and Series 16 has gone ahead. It would have begun, and series would have gone ahead. It would have been shooting from early Feb, hence why the studio is now touting for work. The only pre-production work done are scripts completed by RTD2. So their theory is, of course, well, if that's happened, you can see why they've suddenly got some empty space because it's tanked and Disney's walked. Now, this is what fans will talk about. Like I said, with my analogy of football, if your business goes in, down the pan, you'll end up talking about stuff that's not on the pitch. Because why talk about, well, if Middlesbrough does a fancy free kick in the future, that's how it could be, knowing fine well that we need an owner. And where's it going to be played? Oh, Hartlepool United will play our first match. That was what we were talking about. So here we're talking about warehouse space, we're talking about writers, and we're talking about the direction of the program. Because if the direction goes in the wrong way, all our grannies and grandparents and people out there will go, this is a rubbish show, let's watch the other side. As they did. Bullseye. How many people watched Andrew Flintoff with Bullseye?
It's just the whole conversation now is just about all the future Doctor Who. I don't remember during the Moffat era where we talking about were we worried about whether it was going to last or not. I know there's a little. I know there was something, wasn't there, about whether they were a bit unsure whether it was going to continue after 10 because it was that popular. But I don't think it was massively serious, was it? I mean, they did hire another actor, but I mean, it's just it feels like this is just a discussion that we have nowadays, isn't it? Oh, is it going to die? Is it dying? It's just old and.
Well, it's not old, it's very current. I mean, this is news from the last few days. Now, this one, if you look at this Ratings UK, these are the official top 15 shows of 2024. You would hope, and I'm a realist, that I don't expect Doctor Who to be in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 position. We had the Euros 24, for example, and Gavin and Stacey and Wallace and Gromit stormed it. But Doctor Who is beaten by Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Doctor Who is beaten by Strictly Come Dancing. Doctor Who is beaten by I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It's not there. It's not been the show of 2024. Now, remember, RTD was the guru. RTD is the mentor of these new writers. RTD is the genius who knows how to restore a show. I'm looking. Where is it?
Gone.
It's not there. And so you go, right. So all that means is he's not that good. So let's pull him down a bit. That doesn't mean he's rubbish. It just means he's not as good as everybody's saying he is. Doctor Who returned. It was all right. The specials were okay. I'm being very... but that was it. It's been a damp squib. It hasn't been a failure straight away. It's just been a bit meh. And if that's your launch, then everything else starts to make sense. So when we do look, as we have looked more and more and more Christmas Day, Doctor Who is miles behind. Okay, everyone says Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey are obviously going to be the top ones, but by how much? They've got 10 million more than Doctor Who now. They're into the 20 millions. They have stormed it. Because, and I'll tell you what, I don't know what Rhoda and Cinnamon think, because both of those brands gave the viewers what they recognised as that type of programme or movie.
That's what I was going to say. No, why is Gavin and Stacey doing so well? I thought terrestrial TV was so dead. Why is it getting such high views? I thought TV was dead.
Because it's something that people wanted to see. I mean, I watched the original like Gavin and Stacey series for like the first couple of seasons, and it was like not really my sort of thing, but it was perfectly pleasant to have on the background while you're chatting with your mates or cooking the dinner or whatever. But they've made what they've made is a conclusion to the show, the story that they were telling. They've not tried to reinvent it or. If some, what I'm trying to say is, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Yeah, and don't come back. It's a truism of life. You don't normally return. RTD's come back. Hubris. It's just too much. He said he had no new ideas, and so what he's done is he's trying to get in new apprentices to bring the new ideas, and the new ideas seem to be: do you know what it's like to be gay? Do you know what it's like to be trans? Do you know what it's like to be gay then trans? Do you know what it's like to be black? Do you know what it's like to be an immigrant? Do you know? Hello. He hasn't got any sci-fi concepts.
Yeah. Do you know what it's like to be the only demographic that no RTD type person tends to care about? A normal straight person or a normal gay person is just like trying to live their life and just be normal.
Yeah, and the point is about representation is it has to be good representation. As me and Jamie say, we weren't yearning for having lots of gay people on telly to go, oh, that's what we are. Because when I saw telly in the 80s, you saw Bronski Beat, Boy George, and Marilyn, and I kept thinking, Erasure, I kept thinking, no, I don't think I am gay because I'm none of those types. You know what I mean? And it's like, it wasn't my representation, it was metropolitan gay. And there's Middlesbrough gay going, no, that's definitely not me. No. And this is the point. Representation is so much more nuanced. It's best to just leave it alone and write a damn good story. Now, you see, I think there's some interesting things in our Christmas Day analysis. Strictly Come Dancing, which apparently got roughly the same as Doctor Who in the millions, 84 in the audience appreciation. Because do you know what? When people tuned into that show, they got Strictly Come Dancing. That's what they got. Isn't it amazing as a concept? Call the Midwife. It's not my thing, but the audience appreciation was 90 because I bet you when you tuned in, you saw babies being born, you saw a bit of drama about some childbirth, you got a bit of humor, you got Call the Midwife. Doctor Who was the lowest because was Doctor Who on Christmas Day classic Doctor Who? Gavin and Stacey got 92. Now, I'm not arguing now that you have to get 20 million, but I bet you it got 92 because people tuned in and they saw a narrative, and real characters who were consistent. And at the end of it, they got together. There There was a proper resolution, no reset button. It made sense to the show. And everyone then goes, I really enjoyed that. That's kind of made me happy. 92. Wallace and Gromit was classic Wallace and Gromit. In fact, I was jealous because it was Wallace and Gromit with Robots of Death Gnomes, 87. And that's the key. Doctor Who, Joy to the World, wasn't Doctor Who.
No. I mean, you made me watch it.
Sorry.
But this is what I went downstairs for. This is the point that I want to make. That's how much faith I had. That was how much faith I had. This is a Jodie Whittaker sonic screwdriver. I bought a Jodie Whittaker sonic screwdriver because I really thought they were going to make it work.
And
I was excited.
Yeah,
I was excited. I couldn't. When I found out that after Capaldi, after well, it was twice by the time. And once we got that Christmas special, once I found out I had to wait until October. Oh, that felt like such a long time. I was so excited to see what a female Doctor would have been. I wasn't against it. I
her
wasn't there
first
spitting
scene was
blood from day
amazing.
one. A lot of people were for it.
right, we've got interesting questions here. Right, lads, answer this one for Adrian. What happened to the idea we are one race, one people, joined together by our common humanity? Oh my God.
You're not allowed that.
Yeah, please.
You can't. You're not allowed to be colorblind, even though I want to be, because I want to treat Shooty Gatwa as a person. I don't want to treat Shooty Gatwa just differently. But that's not allowed. That apparently that's wrong, because you have to acknowledge the fact that he's black at every single opportunity.
Except, and I will quote somebody better than Shooty Gatwa, Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King's speech is in every school. Yes, because we do teach this sort of stuff. Never mind what the media waffles on about. I don't know how many times I've done, the freedom speech of Martin Luther King, and we study it. And everybody knows this. Martin Luther King, you don't judge people by their skin color. He wants everybody at the same table, black, white, from everywhere. And we should be colorblind, said Martin Luther King, who knew a little bit about civil rights and pulling people together. And people today are grifting it more, and they're trying to divide. And Doctor Who was that magic program, Cinnamon, when it was about, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Alpha Centauri, it doesn't matter if you're Joe Grant, who's an apprentice in UNIT, it doesn't matter. You can be part of this adventure.
Like I said, celebrating life. That's what it used to be about, just celebrating life and having a good time. And that was the message I took from the earlier Russell era, celebrating life. I'm not just talking about the speech the Ninth Doctor gave. Everybody lives, and not just that, but all of it. It was that was what I took away from it. Like I said, we should be living in a colourblind society. I wouldn't treat Chewie any differently than I would treat Matt Smith. But according to one person on Twitter, I have to acknowledge the fact that he's black. I mean, I do. I'm aware that he is. I can clearly see it. But it's like, it's the message behind it. They want me to, at every opportunity, be aware that he came from Rwanda and that his history. And it's like if me, me as an autistic guy, everyone in the chat has to acknowledge the fact that I have a mental disability. And you all have to recognize all those hardships and all those days whenever I've ever faced, discrimination or anyone making any comments, and you all have to treat me like a victim. If I went around acting like a victim all the time, it'd be a bit selfish and vain of me, wouldn't it?
Cinnamon, you would make more money because it's victim culture.
Well,
everybody wants your victim story.
You see, the thing is, Cinnamon clearly has a soul.
Yeah.
And he's not going to whore himself out.
Exactly. But there's more to him than that. I mean, he's a Middlesbrough fan. That's much more important than autism. He's a Middlesbrough fan.
I remember like late 90s when Paul Gascoigne signed for Middlesbrough.
Yes.
That was...
Well, it was embarrassing because before then, when he played for Spurs, we used to throw Mars bars at him when he took corners. But
we used to eat them.
Yeah, I know. So
I think the commentator said he's still got quick feet, but he's got slow legs.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that was that was Middlesbrough v Man United.
And the Zero Room, when you say that about congratulatory look, can't even say the word. Do you know who else thinks like that? Russell. He's the one that will pat himself on the back and think, "Oh, I've done a good job. Oh, I've put a character in there. Oh, I've done my bit. Oh, aren't I inclusive? Oh, aren't I just because again, only he can do it. Remember, as we've established, only he can do it. He's the only one good enough.
Oh, it's classic. Yeah.
He puts the trans character in, and the trans fans don't even like it because of how boring of a character she was.
Yeah.
Because she's just there.
Well, Zero Room has already said that.
And calling her, him, her, whatever, Rose, is just an insult to like classic era, modern era fans. You know, the classic era of the modern era.
Yeah. 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 I mean, look, people mostly are agreeing. Look, sci-fi fans tend to be more open-minded anyway. Let's be honest. Where the anger has come from, which is unusual among sci-fi fans, is because it's not doing what it says on the tin. And it's not true sci-fi. And there's not many sci-fi brands out there. There's a few who pretend on Netflix and everywhere, but true sci-fi, true proper sci-fi, where is it? And the last thing we need is the great quintessential British Doctor Who turned into a cheapo imitation of an American diluted sci-fi brand. That is the last thing we want. And
no, I completely disagree there. Saying that's the last thing we want would imply that we actually want it.
What do you mean? I don't want us to be changed.
Yeah, exactly. That's the last thing we want.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So whenever everything else has happened, we want that. No, it's not the last thing we want. It's something we don't want.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I too true. But I think that's why the anger's coming in. The anger's coming in because we can see the trajectory. Paul Richards, if people keep highlighting our differences, we'll never get an equal society. Paul Richards, compare get in the TARDIS, go to the 90s and see now. And I think the 90s was more harmonious. Rtd is obsessed with highlighting differences. And all these people who are obsessed with inclusion in narrative are making division in narrative resolution. It's crazy. And Cinnamon you didn't have to mention, your autism. But like you said, if you went on about it in every stream when we're talking about Doctor Who, it ends up being, is that it? Is that all you can talk about?
Exactly.
So
this is my point. If every time I came on stream, you made me acknowledge how wonderful a wonderful gay man that you are, or if I was black, and again, I had to make sure you're all aware that I'm this ethnicity. It's an interesting discussion because I can see it in the comments. I just feel like I don't see color as just a shorter metaphorical way of saying I don't treat anyone differently because of their ethnicity. But what's wrong with that? Not disagreeing with you. I'm not sure what your point, but that's the right thing to do. All you can do is give people equal opportunity. That's the best you can do. Give people equal opportunity, and based on merit. Treat everyone.
Yes.
Again, you don't treat everyone the same because we're not the same. Because it's all about reasonable adjustments. This is the thing. I wouldn't expect you to treat me the exact same as Brendan because we're different people and we have different requirements and we'll have different needs.
Well, you do.
So again, you make reasonable adjustments and you give everyone the same opportunity. But of course.
But the thing is, when you go, you don't go to the pub with all the mates in your life. What you do is you go out on different days with different friends because they have different needs, different interests, and different ways of talking. That's what I mean. You just cater for how we're all different. Now, I've put the Fugitive Doctor up here because, as you know, Joe Martin's coming into Big Finish. So we're not being colorblind. We're going to be colorblind, as we've been saying was the great 90s. But my point is, the Fugitive Doctor was better written than the Jodie Doctor. But I don't know where the Fugitive Doctor fits into Doctor Who. And I get worried about all these kind of Big Finish and War Games in Color, and they create canon. They say they're not, but they are creating canon. And so we've got the Fugitive Doctor messing around again. How do you feel about the Fugitive Doctor in Big Finish, and then possibly the rumors are possibly in season 2?
Well, for me, I don't know how she fits into canon. I don't know where she's supposed to sit in the real story. But what I will say is I really enjoyed her performance. Jo Martin, I'm talking about, obviously.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her performance. I thought she was convincing as the Doctor, and I thought she had a new take on the character, which was interesting, and I want to see more of her.
Okay, Cinnamon.
I'll do the same. I don't know where she fits in. Don't think anyone does. It was Chibnall's story, and he couldn't even be bothered to finish it. I mean, this clip, obviously, this is just a picture, but she did put out a little. It was a video that the actual Big Finish account put out, and it was about 5 seconds long or whatever it was. And she's sort of saying, I think she says a line that her Doctor must have said in the episode, and she does have gravitas, and she does have sort of. She gives sort of Doctor attitude in what she said. In that, again, it was only a couple of seconds long. But I just felt, even when I watched it, she just felt more like the Doctor than Jodie did.
Yeah.
And upstaged her in her own episode.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly desperate for the character to return. To be honest, I think it's just a bit of a mess. Like it's opened up a can of worms.
Well, I'm completely opposite there, because I really want the character to return, because I want to understand where she fits in, because I actually care about that character. Whereas I really don't care about Jodie's character, and I really don't care about Gatwa's character.
This is what really irritates me. Right, you're Chris Chibnall. You've just taken over Doctor Who, right? And you want a female Doctor. You say to the BBC, it has to be a female Doctor. So all you do at that point is you pick the best person for the job. Now, what's mad is 2 minutes after he picks Jodie Whittaker, he picks what's her name? I've forgotten her blooming name. How have I done that? Jo Martin. He picks Jo Martin to be the Fugitive Doctor. All of us can see what we see, which is the Jo Martin Doctor is better written, better executed, and actually, I would have preferred as the Doctor. And then if you want to tick your boxes, which I hate, you've got a black female Doctor, but she would have been a strong Doctor. And you wouldn't have had to go down this detour of the gurning David Tennant light female Jodie Whittaker. You didn't need that one. Jo Martin could have been, what do you reckon, Thread and panelists? What about if we went back in time and forget the Fugitive Doctor title, Jo Martin was picked as the Doctor after Capaldi rather than Jodie Whittaker? Could you have lived with that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it would still,
because the woman can act.
Yeah, to be honest, she can. We'd probably have the same conversations about, and I imagine, unfortunately, whether the skin color would be a talking point, wouldn't it? But I think once we got past that, well, hopefully, we would get a good actor, because she is a good actor from what we've seen. She's only had less than 10 minutes of screen time, and mostly a hologram. But she is a better Doctor. I do personally wish we could go back and give it to her instead, because she just has more. And again, I do think she was a little bit of a stereotype, with the whole kind of a strong, independent black woman. Give her a big gun.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of that in it too. There's a little bit of that in it too. But yeah, she was believable, and she sold. Again, when she came on, I thought everyone else thought, wow, she's better than Jodie. And it's a little bit like you can't help but notice it. She
reminded me. Sorry, I thought you finished because your screen froze. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's all right. Go on, Rhoda.
She kind of like in a like really like stern, austere manner. She really made me think of the original William Hartnell Doctor. I was really impressed. I was rooting for it to be like this kind of like whole intertwined like season after season with two different doctors, and we find out why there's two different doctors and which one is the real one, and it was obviously going to be Joe Martin.
I can understand your intrigue and your interest, and I can't knock that. What I can say is, over the time, producers have been very wary, even of repeating showing repeats of a doctor who's not the current doctor. You know, that they don't like that competition. They always were very careful. And isn't it weird that our showrunners nowadays, since Chibnall, are so bored with the brand and so desperate for new ideas that we had the War Doctor, we had the Fugitive Doctor, and you're saying the Fugitive Doctor and how they relate with the Doctor who's on the telly the most. Then we've got the 14th Doctor having his salad with Donna Noble in some garden somewhere.
Well, I couldn't bring my I loved David Tennant's first era, but I couldn't even bring myself to watch that.
No. Now we see people in the thread. Let's just Joe Martin's got a reaction. Yeah. So let's just have a look at them. Basically, Doctor Who is a man, and he's not a person of color. Changing the Doctor is wrong. Adrian, if I could start from way back, I do think, I mean, James Bond shouldn't change. James Bond will stay a man. And I do think we've jumped the shark. We really shouldn't have done that, but now we are where we are. What do you do? Now we have had a female doctor. I'm just saying, what a ridiculous situation Chibnall put himself in, that having picked Jodie Whittaker, he didn't give her the best scripts and the best lines, and then he brought the Fugitive Doctor on, and she was a better female doctor. That, to me, was stupid. Very bad writing, very bad strategy, foolish. But this is the way they write.
You're completely right, Brendan. I think a lot of the problem is it's people who just spent their entire time behind a desk and not really interacted with the real world or met real people, and not known that people from different backgrounds actually get on with each other. Nice people get along with nice people.
Yeah, and we do. And look,
we don't need to be told.
And I don't have to. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump is being quoted by people tells you that what the hell's going on. I mean, the common sense should be, it should be merit. It should be merit.
Absolutely.
The best actor. I was thinking of, well, my dream was something like Helen Mirren or somebody. Now, I know Doctor Who would never get somebody like Helen Mirren, but my ambition was to have, if you're gonna have a female actress, top notch, if you don't mind. Paul Richards, Joe Martin had a stern, stoic character. Can't say that about Jodie or Gatwa. Exactly. She was more like the Doctor, as Rhoda said, a bit more Hartnell-esque. Martin made Whittaker look like the lightweight, and it's unfair. Jodie Whittaker has decided to perform a certain way, and then suddenly this other Doctor comes along, and we can't help but compare.
I mean, you've seen her in other things. She's actually like quite a decent actress.
Yeah.
But the problem is she's mates with David Tennant, and she was trying to be the female 10.
Yes, she was.
It didn't.
Yeah, well, what you do, I've learned. I'm not an impressionist. I'm not an impressionist or an actor. But here you go. What's happening here? I mean, there you go. There's the Jodie Whittaker, gurning, and it was all teeth, wasn't it? Oh, wowie! Oh, where's it was amazing.
Scrunching her face all the time,
like all the little hints that she was going to get with what was her name? Jasmine, was it? Yasmin.
Yeah, dear Chris, at the Christmas party, you can see this. Me and Yaz, we've been talking, and we think it'd be a great idea if we have some kind of lesbian tryst in the TARDIS, with a bed next to the time rotor. Now, I know you're a Doctor Who fan, so how about that? And he goes, do you know what? I think we're onto something, because I've always wanted to do Emmerdale in space. Do you know, I just don't know where these people are. These are the showrunners who say they're super fans. And they have written into the script that there's a double bed in the TARDIS console room. Now, I know everyone will say Planet of the Daleks, John Pertwee. It was a single bed, if you don't mind. And it was in the corner. And of course, we never saw it again. And I was not into the bedroom scenes of the 80s. I did think, oh, why are we doing that? So I was never, I was a prude. I was not into it. That's not sci-fi. I don't want to know about Tegan's sleeping habits.
That's fine. I mean, look, it goes for then as it goes for now. The Doctor should not be sexualized.
No.
Doctor Who should not be sexualized. It's a family show. I wouldn't go as far as you guys have said and say it's a kids show. It's a family show.
Yeah, it's a family show.
It's for all ages. It's for 3 years old until dead.
Yeah. Well. I think you can be dead and watch it now because it's that lame. I think
maybe if you've done bad things in life, that is what you're watching when you're dead.
Yeah, brain dead. I tell you. So now just to kind of, I mean, does this cheer you up? The war between the land and the sea. We've got a logo, and it looks like
it really doesn't.
It doesn't it? We're trying our best. Now, Russell Tovey, bless him, has talked about this. Now, is there anything thread or panelists that just appeals? I mean, Sea Devil appeals, but not the way they were in Jodie's era. He gave an update, right? And he says, it's brilliant. It was a wonderful job. I don't know when it comes out, but I would assume towards the end of the year. That's the mooted thing, isn't it? Because season 2 climax kind of links with it. He also said it's got an indie vibe, and that's why I'm really excited about it. Dylan Holmes Williams has directed a couple of episodes in the last season of Doctor Who, 73 Yards, which was okay until they left the Welsh village. And
so 2 of the 3 worst episodes.
They're not the worst. 73 Yards was okay until they went years and years on us. When I stayed in the village, it was okay. Dot and Bubble never really took off to me. I didn't think it was one of the worst. And when I had all the panelists on, when we judged it, I think there were, I mean, you've got Space Babies and Devil's Card straight away. They're the bottom 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I only watched reviews of it. I didn't actually watch the episodes because I gave up halfway through Jodie.
These 2, I if I'm being a very fair person, I thought in a very bad season, 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble were kind of middle, and he was brought in. He was here at Sundance a few years ago, back with a short, and it was really well received. I saw that, and I was really compelled by his tone. So tonally, it's part of the Whoniverse. But it's our own special creation. Now, it's been one of the best jobs he's ever had. Every day was brilliant. I love the character I play. I love the cast and crew. I think we have a responsibility as actors when we walk on set to be kind and to be, all right. And I think as I get older and every single project I do, I make sure that when I walk onto set, I'm kind. Everybody has to be kind. I get it. What about Doctor Who? Please tell us a bit more.
Be kind.
Yeah. Or give him more work. Yeah.
And then get on a plane because you don't like the choice of president.
Well, they're
and then land in a bloody flood and go running home again.
They were in Mallorca, and I mean, I'd be kind if I got a nice work do in Mallorca. Now, remember, this has been talked about by many streamers over months now. I thought we'd decided it was an Atlantean or a hybrid Sea Devil because there is a romance. Unfortunately, you know, RTD, he has to have romance.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got to get their end away somewhere.
Yeah. So, as Gary Lee said, and I don't
not have sci-fi. You know, if you want to write a romance drama, write a romance drama. You're bloody brilliant at it. I loved Casanova. David Tennant's performance in Casanova, which Russell wrote, was the reason I started watching Doctor Who in the first place. Like, you know, do what you're good at. Don't try and push your blinking politics into an established show that people love. Do what you're good at and sod off.
Yeah. Cosmic Toyman, gotta love how the nicest things you can say, Brendan, to describe an episode is it wasn't the worst in the series. I mean, that's where I'm at. Gary Lee said this. Now, I haven't had a chance to get the origins or source of this because I know everybody on every stream in the world has discussed this already over the months, going, is it a sea devil or is it a new species? Because it just says the war between the land and the sea. And he says it's a design sketch leaked of the new sea devil design, which I have to say, if that was true, it's game over for me, because they've messed with the sea devils so much. Why? What's wrong? Can I just remind everybody? I'm going to do it one more time. This is what the sea devils really look like. Yeah, isn't that's the sea devils?
Yeah, I mean that makes me want to watch it. That makes me want to sit back on my bed and hit play on my PS5 controller and just like chill and watch that episode.
But that is not the sea devils, and I want Gary Lee to be Ron. I want all the rumors that is a sea devil to be Ron, and I thought I'd worked it out that it's another species. Cinnamon, where do you stand? What are we looking at?
It doesn't really look recognizable as a sea devil, does it? You know, everyone knows the big bulging eyes and the classic look. I mean, if Chibnall could keep the same design, I don't see why Russell can't. They did it with the Silurians too. They made them change that and made them all green and made them slightly more human faces. Although I suppose they tried to explain it away by saying, no, they were different group or different kind of race of Silurians or whatever it was. But I don't know. I always thought it looked a bit like the ones, the fish people from Underwater Menace. But
Yeah, the Atlanteans.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm not excited by that. Now, we were going to talk about this last week and we never got the chance, but you know, isn't it funny when we were talking about Juno Dawson and Thin Said off Piste, that John Barrowman is having such a hard time. John Barrowman says he's been blackballed and can't even get an audition anymore. If I was naked on set, it's because it was written into a script. And if I was wriggling it or being stupid, it was to make myself feel comfortable in that situation, he says. I'm not going there about that. What's happened has happened. With the with the benefit of hindsight, I understand that upset may have been caused by my exuberant behavior, and I've apologized. But he says, you know, there he explains a bit more why he was nervous about it, and that's why he acted silly. I'm disgusted at the way my Doctor Who and Torchwood family turned their backs on me. 99% of the things that were said were all wrong, and I'm under the impression that the person who started it all, the journalists who ran with it, and the online judge and jury who think they can say what they like, seem to have a privilege to ruin someone's life and career. No one was offended. No one was upset. It was created by a source. It was crap. I ended up being clickbait, and it's lasted for 3 years. It's devastating to the point I was blackballed. I can't get into a room for an audition or a meeting anymore. That's why I've decided to talk about it. It's quite disgusting how people have treated me. And to be quite honest, I've said it with Rachel on that was the week that was woke, and we're live this Friday at 7, by the way, everyone. But I don't agree with cancel culture. This is wrong. This is wrong. I
don't blame him. I mean, like, again, people, yeah, okay, should you be getting it out? No. But again, if I got a job, I don't go to work and whip it out.
But if it's already out, then
but again, for a scene where he was nearly naked, and the thing is, it was a long time ago. Which again, I'm not saying that as an excuse. Oh, stop caring about it because it's a long time ago. But everyone knew it. This is the point I never got.
Well,
everyone
finish
knew
it. Bring me back to that because I've got something to say after.
Okay.
But it was just, you know, like I say, everyone. It was. They even sang about it in a joke, in a song, in the rap party. This was common knowledge. And again, apart from one person, I think there's one woman who did complain to Julie Gardner, and it was and apparently he was reprimanded for that. But when we're talking about, you know, Camille Coduri and Clark, who joked about it on a stage, maybe the cast he was with didn't seem to have a problem with it. And again, it was mentioned at Comic-Con, and then thus chaos ensues. Because again, this is about everyone knew about it. Now, does that make it good? I don't know. Maybe we could talk about that. But this is common knowledge. This isn't something new.
The thing is, Rhoda, as I come to you, the point is the showrunner and and the BBC are responsible for anything that happens on set. And they are responsible. So they took it in hand, and we understand there were words said, and then he said sorry, and it won't happen again. So I don't know why he's been cancelled years later, because it was dealt with in house.
Sorry too, as well. Me?
Yeah, but if they're gonna you can't just cancel John Barrowman. Why don't you cancel all the producers of the BBC who allowed it? Rhoda, what were you going to say?
If we're going to be sorry, I do apologise, Rhoda.
No, carry on, because I imagine everything you've got to say will lend into the point that I was going to make. So go on.
Possibly, but I was just going to say that if for all this outroar, again, if we're going to be sat there and we're going to be living in a world where we can cast and hire Juno Dawson to be writing scripts for Doctor Who, then this looks like nothing. You've got nothing to say to me. If you're fine with Juno Dawson, and yet you're outraged by this, whether it should have happened or whether it shouldn't, don't come at me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So it's absolutely fine to hire a writer who is pushing for. I mean, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean any offense here, but from my point of view, as a Christian, like really, really derogatory ideas on kids.
That's why I've tried to thread this show together. Hopefully people can see certain patterns. We started with, we've got a new lot of writers. These are the future for Doctor Who. RTD has already been hypocritical by saying he was anti-woke rubbish representation scripts, and now he's allowing it. And now we've got this at the end of it, where we can have people who have written things that are bad, and of course they're not cancelled. And then we have this version of what's going on. And of course, the person who is not cancelled, Juno Dawson, has said, I remember the first time I saw a penis in the flesh. I must have been around 8 or 9. And we've been.
Can we hang on 1 second?
What?
The point that I was going to make that I didn't get around to making has been really brought up by Eastlyn Burkholder.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And the point that I was really, really going to center on before I went off on a tangent was that we're the same people, but certain factions are trying to judge yesterday's art by today's political standards. Back when that stuff with Barrowman actually happened, it was probably pretty bloody normal for people in the theatre, especially if they were supposed to be naked in the scene, to make a joke about it to make themselves feel comfortable, exactly as John Barrowman said. And now we're like retroactive. Well, we're not, but people are retroactively imposing new moral standards, which at this current point are really being disputed. And thank goodness for that. We seem to be coming back more towards an age of common sense.
Can I just remind us that when we watched the end of season 1 with RTD1, you had the Big Brother episode and the weakest link element.
I hated that.
But there was an element.
I almost gave up on Doctor Who for that.
Well, yeah, but what my point I was going to be, there was a moment in it when you had Trini and Susanna robots, and the script had John Barrowman naked. That was the script, not John Barrowman. So
that comes to my point.
And then there was the joke written by the writer, not John Barrowman, that he had his gun hidden somewhere. So we have a naked actor, and the joke is he's hidden his gun somewhere. I'm sorry, but who is the naughty one here? And it's not John Barrowman.
No,
This
it's
is
not.
my
You're
point.
absolutely
You
right.
know what I mean? It's not like he's just
it's
walked in
RTD.
one day and went into the staff room. Hey guys, hey, I'd imagine if you were in that situation where you are on set and you are naked, you are going to be, you are going to sort of break the ice, I'd imagine. So again, I can see where he's coming from. I don't know who he needs to apologise to. People, again,
Oh, well,
the
it's
judge, jury, and executioner online say, it's just another he's man has apologised numerous times, and it's never good enough because it never is. It doesn't matter how many times you apologise, it'll never be good enough. But like, who is he apologising to? Who was scarred and emotionally traumatised by this such devastating experience? Again, whether it should have happened or not, Killy, Camille, Kaduri, and Noel Clark found it funny. No one else had a problem. David Tennant sang about it in the rap party. Again, like we said, Russell was the one who wrote it for him to be nearly half naked. Whether he was covering his front part, I'd imagine, possibly. I don't know what was
but
going
he
on.
makes the jokes about it. He made the jokes about body parts and where you hide your gun. And, this is a family drama.
Well,
It always was.
That militia, isn't it?
Yeah. So I've got a few things here. Farsight, Julie Gardner said she could only vaguely remember any complaints about on-set antics. They're responsible. It's those who should be in trouble if they allowed it. And I assume it was allowed at the time. But what I wanted to bring in was our friend Julian Gabriel Clark. Now, Julian Gabriel Clark, I actually texted the other day saying I was going to talk about this and what your opinion was on Juno Dawson, because you are trans. And so I wanted to be fair and reasonable in my discussion and know more about these people. And as you say, Julian Gabriel Clark, Juno Dawson doesn't represent me.
Spot on.
And this is the point. So when we go back to the very beginning of this, when RTD talks about representation, and I say about in the 90s and the 80s that just because there were some gay people on TV didn't mean I was seeing myself represented. Juno Dawson doesn't represent Julian Gabriel Clark. And I know from a few of our texts that Julian's not happy about Juno Dawson's talk because
Julian represents Julian. And,
yeah.
So I do apologise. I'm not familiar with. I don't know if you identify, but you know yourself. Juno represents herself. That's again whatever she says about her experience. That's her experience. This is the thing with group and labels and representation. Not everyone's the same. You've got to make those reasonable adjustments and afford everyone the same opportunity. But you can't treat everyone the same because we're not the same, really. When it comes down to it, we're not.
Well,
even the three of us on this panel are all different people, different backgrounds, different history, personal history. We've all different experiences in our lives. So, Juno, like Julian absolutely and rightly says, Julian absolutely should be representing himself.
But it's like
Juno.
It's like I'm concerned that sexuality is being rammed down so many people's throats in Doctor Who and places you wouldn't expect it, that it's going to cause a kickback. Now, you've got Juno Dawson, whose texts and Instagrams and stuff, surely you know that MPs, people out there, can really get into trouble from the press if there's one tweet that looks dodgy. Now, how come has Juno Dawson come through when, of course, John Barrowman says he's been cancelled? I can't read out what's on that screen totally, but you can hear the anger and the division. And this person has been trusted to write a family drama script. Excluding women from women's spaces isn't very feminist, is it? But Juno Dawson has to agree there's an argument about, can a trans person be in a female toilet? The argument's out there and it's not settled. I'm just say that for a second. So that's an unfair point to make. And then, of course, the language used in the second one, I've never used in my life. It's interesting that people have been sliding into my DMs to tell me some outwardly liberal woke authors and writers have expressed such concerns about trans women. You might want to be careful who you're mouthing off to. I can understand defending
Vaguely
yourself
threatening.
and being angry. I can understand that. You know, if people are attacking you, you don't politely say, "Oh, sorry about that." You come back fighting. I do. So I can understand using, you know, confrontational language if somebody's really getting at you. But unfortunately, I'm actually not script writing for a show. I can explain my things, and if people don't like what I say, I'll lose my viewers on this tiny, 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 tiny show. But if I was on a global streaming platform, I need to be blooming careful about any text I've sent because it's incendiary. So I don't know how, when we look at John Barrowman and then we see this. So we all know what John Barrowman did, and we know he apologized. I've heard nothing about apologies or from any of this language. And there's loads of it. You know, the word turf is hardly helpful. And it's just that anger that's coming across, but has been given off. It's been reaffirmed by giving them a job, and you know,
And
the
this is who
final thing.
people want as a future showrunner.
And Juno Dawson just yesterday, before suspending their profile, said, you know, they've had a lot of attacks. I don't approve of people being attacked. I don't. But it's the final words when they say, I'm going in the wrong direction, typical me. They say, because do you know one thing? I won. And I assume what they're saying is, I got the job on Doctor Who, so you can slag me off, you can rant and rave, but I won. Now, that could be just trying to preserve your own self-belief. I get that. If you think the world's attacking you, I get it. You don't kind of go under a stone and crawl. But it's just not the right look. It's just not the right look. And who's meant...
In today's world, we think criticism is abuse, because she sits there in this video after the response and she says she's been abused and people shouldn't be allowed to say what they say. Like I put in my tweet, obviously I don't tolerate abuse either. No one should be receiving messages, "You're the worst person on earth." You know, and vile things should be said about it. But because again, you don't fight fire with fire. But at the end of the day, what she says abuse is really just people calling her out for the material that she's published in these books, and for some of the unbelievably controversial and I think I would believe homophobic things she said.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's right. But obviously in today's society, being critiqued and criticised, it's the same as abuse. What abuse? Show the screenshots, because I don't think she is being abused. Maybe some idiot, yes, is maybe slipped in their DMs and said some really awful things, possibly. But from comments like mine and comments I'd imagine from other people, it was just fair comment. You know,
Well, as Heather,
you've written some rather vile material intended for children. I don't think someone like you should have the privilege to be able to write for a family show. I just don't think the two.
Well, like Heather says here, and this is where I come from as well. You can do what you want, Juno Dawson. You can write what you want. Well done for being Sunday Times' best-selling novelist. Well done. And I'm not being sarcastic there. Well done. I wish I could have done something better with my life regarding publishing some novels or something. So, I really mean that. However, all that you're bringing to now being linked with Doctor Who, I don't like. I don't want, like Heather says, I want to keep all controversy away from Doctor Who, because when controversy comes to Doctor Who, the journalists come, the politicians come, and I don't want Doctor Who turning into a political football. And as you can see here, Juno Dawson's been in fights with Gareth Roberts. They've been to court. There's fights and arguments about this, that, and the other. And Gareth. Remember, Gareth Roberts just wrote an article about Juno Dawson and the book, and of course then gets attacked for the wrong pronoun, this, that, and the other. And you just think, this is terrain a sci-fi drama shouldn't be on. We're in the wrong ballpark. And this is my concern. And I grant Cinnamon and Rhoda that we're not talking about Doctor Who per se, but I'd be missing the point. This is a bit like I'm teaching in my classroom and there's a fight outside the classroom and I'm saying, right, we have to keep focused. We have to keep focused. Nobody in the class will be listening because they're saying, but there's a fight outside, sir. There's a fight outside.
They'd all be pressed against the window looking, wouldn't they?
So when I know what you're saying, Cinnamon, I sympathise with it. But the point is, every Doctor Who fan is bothered about who's in charge. Is it axed? Is Bad Wolf Studios still involved? Who's the new streamer, if there is going to be one? Who's writing the scripts? Is Doctor Who going to be Doctor Who anymore? Is it going to be rubbish season 2? Because if it is, we know season 3 won't happen. All those questions are happening. And if I said, oh, let's today talk about the 10th planet, part 3, I'm missing the blooming point.
Hmm.
You know, it is.
What I think is that's exactly what I think, because there's nothing to comment on. RTD has just gone right up his own butt and just ignoring the world around him, and so has Judy Gatwa. And if they get a season 3, it will be purely for contractual reasons. Disney don't want it. There's no profit in it. So the only reason they would do it would be so they can keep Bluey. That's really where it is.
Yeah. So Dalek Lives Matters, I'll bring you back up, don't worry. Garrett Williams, John Barrowman did something in 2008 and he apologised for it. Case closed. Then someone found some old convention footage and he gets cancelled, but from a direct accusation, but actually hearsay. Hearsay actually is more poisonous, it seems to me, than the actual direct accusation, which is the point you're making, I know. Simon Anthony, good to see you. I know you've been all the way through the stream. Regarding Dawson, we have not seen the program yet. I'll talk about it after transmission. I know why you're saying that, Simon, Anthony, and that's called being open-minded. My issue is people don't get given that chance. In this culture, they get cancelled if they've had a rogue tweet. They get cancelled if they've said something that's a bit incendiary or confrontational or aggressive or unkind. But I find it fascinating that we've got John Barrowman, who's in the dock, and we've got Juno Dawson, who you've seen my evidence there. I haven't seen the episode, I agree.
Yeah.
But we're not in a culture that seems to wait for episodes. We're in a culture where Kevin Spacey's cancelled and erased from House of Cards. We're in that sort of culture. And it's not waiting. Let's just wait and see for the court case. They didn't wait for the
this is why people respect you, man. You wait for the evidence.
Yes.
You know, you give an opinion, but you say, but it might be something else. I mean,
in fairness, we're not even talking about whether the episode will be good or not, because we're not here to discuss the episode. We're not saying, oh, the episode is going to be absolutely terrible because Juno's
well, there
writing
hasn't been an episode yet.
It's more, should Juno be there in the first place?
Yes.
I think that's where I'm coming from. That's certainly my viewpoint. It could be good by some bloody miracle, but it's just, you look at the books that she's written, and a lot of it about herself and the identity and the culture that she likes to be involved in. And I think, are we really going to be fortunate enough to go through an entire episode of Doctor Who without the slightest of indoctrination or self-inserts? Is she really gonna sit there and write a pure, genuine, honest Doctor Who episode with no issues whatsoever? I mean, possibly.
It's just that
we haven't seen it yet, but
it's just that
I would like to
you're
be proved wrong,
humor,
but I won't.
Yeah, look, this is my open mind. This is the stretch of it. We've got RTD, who's just showrun probably one of the worst seasons of Doctor Who in its 61-year history.
Sorry, one of?
Well, I'm just trying to, I don't want to be incendiary. I'm just saying that's roughly where we are. This is called an open mind to a degree. That it was one of the worst seasons of Doctor Who ever. Some people like to deny, and I'm just.
I would like to insert
I know, but what I'm saying is this is called trying to be open-minded. That it was definitely one of the worst seasons in the 61-year history. He's the mentor of new writers who he has allowed to do an apprenticeship on Doctor Who, not Why Don't You, Doctor Who. So this is a massive brand. Julie Gardner said last year she wants this to go global. She wants this to be bigger and reach every person in the world. Now, as somebody said in a thread ages ago now, we know from the Eurovision Song Contest, if you do a very sexualized dance routine, the Middle East countries, the conservative countries censor it and don't even show it. So, as you know, our UK entry last year wasn't shown. It wasn't shown in lots of countries. We know that Doctor Who is censored in lots of countries. So how far do we go down this where suddenly Doctor Who is seen as, and my point is going to be, how come some countries that are more conservative say it's inappropriate for our families, and in the UK we go it's an open season? I think it says more about where the hell we stand. Do we actually have a line in the sand?
It means that we have an absolutely dreadful government who need to be ousted. I'm getting way too political now, but yeah, I'm really angry about how we've been treated by the uni party for the last 14 and a half years.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I'll do a politics show, and I'll do another one soon where, yeah, whatever whether they're Tory or Labour, whether they're Democrat or Republican, there seems to be a vibe of a certain message that's been sold overall. And I'm not sure if families get a look in. I'm not sure if people are allowed to say, actually, can we go back to a little bit more common sense? Can we go back to a few more traditional family values? Are we allowed to say that? When I started teaching, you used to have to send a note out to parents. I mean, I didn't teach sex education, but you know, when you used to get a note that the parents could say, well, I'd prefer if I talked about it. But parents had a say. Now parents just go, Doctor Who's on. Oh, okay. We're going there, are we? I thought we were going to the planet Zog. I didn't realize we were going there. You know,
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat decided on Christmas Day to basically just say the Star of Bethlehem is some overweight customer from
that really angered me.
Woman who killed her own mother, or whatever it was the ending was about.
Yeah.
No, I don't push my religion on other people, but I found like really how far can I go? Can I say the F word?
No, don't, please.
I cannot. Okay. I found that really bloody offensive.
Yeah. And that's fair enough, isn't it? I understand. When this is what gets you, Rhoda, isn't it? We see interviews saying you need to be kind, you need to be inclusive, you need to be tolerant. And then suddenly, if you are a Christian or any religion, to be honest, that has a conservative value, stuff you, we're going to rewrite your religion in a Doctor Who cheapo episode. Well done. Thank you for that tolerance. Thank you for that love and appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you for that hate. Thank you for that making me look like an asshole for believing in what I believe in. That was really kind of you.
Well, that's how they go. So we've this is what disappoints me the most. Just over a year ago, I started the Sense Sphere. It's my retirement little hobby. I like talking.
Brilliant. Well done.
I like talking about Doctor Who, and I appreciate that you and Cinnamon and the thread have said, "Is there much Doctor Who we're talking about at the moment?" But it feels as though it's bigger than that, because I did make the argument a while back that Doctor Who is a cultural British icon, and people have taken it as a prize and a trophy, because as soon as they own it, they can change the British culture. I feel that strongly that what they've seen Doctor Who is a totem that they grab to change how they want the British culture to be in the future.
That is very much what Russell's trying to do, and
Yes.
it is not going to work because we are stronger than that.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. What do the thread think? Do you think we've got a chance in hell? I feel as though I've lost Doctor Who, and I feel as though it's bigger than that now.
Yeah, you've got your DVDs or Blu-rays. They're not making Doctor Who at the moment. They're making some kind of really weird parody of it. But one day they'll start making Doctor Who again.
I hope so. So, I'll obviously be back on Friday, 11 a.m., the detox, when we'll try and detox. At 7 p.m. on Friday, we will be live. Me and Rachel. That was the week that was woke. And I think there'll be an element to this. I am sure of it. But that's what we normally discuss on the Friday at 7 p.m. But this time, folks, we are live. So please.
By the way, shout out to chat. That was the week that was woke.
Yes,
Brendan and Rachel. It's an absolutely awesome show. You really, really want to go and see that. That's I have so much fun there. I've watched both episodes so far. It's really fucking great.
Well, thank you for that. So Cinnamon, good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Always good in the thread.
I know.
Comments. Again, it's always every time I come on, there's always some big thing, isn't there?
I know.
Like a bomb set off in a crater, some big Doctor Who news that we've all got to digest. But
it's really weird. It's really weird. Yesterday afternoon, I was doing a recording of our review of Kinder, and you go from that to talking about this within 24 hours, and you think, do you know what? Just watching Nissa say, oh, I feel a bit queasy, I'm going in the TARDIS. It seems like a lifetime away from all this about trans or LGBT or John Barrowman getting, his member out, or what is going on? And it is New Who as a brand, which I do think there have to be question marks about the whole scheme since 2005, whether we liked episodes or not. It's gone sleazy in part. It's gone risque. It's gone cheeky and full of innuendo. I think it's gone too far. It's gone anti-religious. It's gone distasteful. I think it has gone too far. I really do. And
yeah, absolutely.
And there we are. Our Wednesday full of war, Whovian war. Well, thank you for coming on, Rhoda, and thank you for Cinnamon coming on too. That was our Bi-Generates this Wednesday, when I think we needed to discuss this. We've got no answers. I think we've just got an awful lot of, a bit like Juno Dawson, we've got a lot of anger and a lot of kind of upset about where is our TV program, which used to be on at about 6 o'clock on a Saturday after Basil Brush. And can you imagine now watching this stuff after that? I just cannot imagine it. Anyway, goodbye, both of you, and thanks for being on. Okay, thank you, Thread.
Thanks for having me on, Roden. I'm so sorry about that last little blip.
Don't worry. So see you on Friday. 2 live shows, 11 o'clock detox, 7 o'clock the week that was woke. Bye for now, everybody. See you Friday, a double bill.